In the prison of the Silver Dragon dungeon, guarded by two formidable dragon sentinels, a silver dragon queen named Roswis arrived, ordering the guards to leave as she wished to speak with the prisoner alone. Chained in the prison was the great dragon slaying hero. With a sly smile, she asked him how it felt to be a prisoner of the dragon clan. His reply was simple. He wanted to die. Amused by his desire for a swift death, she approached him, touching his chin. It wasn't easy for her, for he was both handsome and defiant. Slowly, she traced her sharp nail across his face, making a small cut, savoring the thought of adding more to mar his perfect features. He turned his head away, refusing to let her humiliate him any further. She could kill him or tear him apart if she wished. He only hoped she'd be quicker about it. Despite his great power, he had been betrayed by a villain, leaving him in this wretched state. The Dragon Queen licked the blood from his wound and suggested he join the Silver Dragon clan. He mocked her, questioning if she was worthy of such an ally. Infuriated, she lashed out, whipping him with her tail. His body slammed into the wall with a resounding crash. Standing over him, she placed her foot on his chest, incredulous that a mere prisoner would dare insult her. This was no ordinary man. His name was Leon Cosmo, once the celebrated hero of humanity, praised by thousands. But now, broken and defeated, he could no longer believe in his former greatness. His dreams of wiping out the Dragon Clan and leaving behind a legacy for future generations had crumbled. The Dragon Queen sneered, telling him to accept his fate. He would die here. She pressed her foot harder into his chest, reminding him that any chance of a future filled with wealth and glory had vanished. Without an heir, he would leave nothing behind. Leon warned her not to underestimate humans. With a swift motion, the Dragon Queen wrapped her tail around his neck, thinking how stubborn he was. As she tightened her grip, she asked if he was ready to beg for mercy. But Leon remained calm, revealing that she had made two critical mistakes from the very beginning. First, he said, "You should never have been alone with the most powerful dragon slayer. And second, you should never have tasted my blood." Suddenly, Leon activated a forbidden technique known as the blood curse. The Dragon Queen instantly released her hold on him, stepping back in shock. A strange sensation overwhelmed her, and to her horror, she felt an uncontrollable lust take over her body. She collapsed to her knees, trembling. Leon approached, his eyes cold and calculating. "You will live the rest of your life in pain," he declared, "a torment that will gnaw at your soul." Her desire intensified, and before she could think, she lunged at him, knocking him to the ground. Leon, taken aback, couldn't comprehend what was happening. The Dragon Queen, consumed by the curse, kissed him, causing him to blush. For the next hour, they were locked in a bizarre and heated encounter. Finally, the blood curse began to fade, and with it, her control over her body returned. She quickly pulled away, confusion and anger in her eyes. "What have you done to me?" she demanded. Leon calmly explained. "The blood curse is a forbidden technique, one that can only be used once in a lifetime. When you tasted my blood, it created a bond between our souls. Once I die, the curse will cause you endless suffering." The Dragon Queen scoffed, still trying to make sense of the situation. "If this curse takes effect after death, then why did this happen?" she asked, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Leon frowned. It seemed the curse had an unexpected side effect, one even he hadn't predicted. "I thought the pain you'd feel upon my death would be the extent of it," he admitted. "But apparently there's more to the spell than I knew." Blushing, the Dragon Queen realized what this meant. Dragons were bound by strict codes of monogamy, and the bond created by the blood curse would doom her future. After Lion's death, she would be unable to take another mate, bear offspring, or explain to the Dragon Clan what had happened. Lion was surprised by the unintended consequences of the spell. The irony wasn't lost on him. She had mocked him for not having a successor, but now neither would she. She launched into the attack, but Leon stopped her, saying, "You don't need to do this. I'm going to die soon anyway." As his eyes began to close, he gave one final request, that the Dragon Queen live with hatred for him and feel pain for the rest of her life. This was his curse as a human, his parting revenge. The Dragon Queen hesitated, holding back from delivering the final blow. Moments later, Leon breathed his last. She couldn't believe it. This mere human had taken his revenge in such a despicable way. But she wasn't about to let him have the last words so easily. Using her power, she marked Lion's chest with the emblem of the Silver Dragon. Leon Cosmo had once been a legend, a hero revered by all. At the age of 5, he had killed a vicious dog with his bare hands, an act witnessed by a master dragon slayer passing by. Seeing potential in the boy, the slayer took him in as an apprentice. By the age of 10, Leon entered the prestigious Imperial Dragon Slayer Academy, and 4 years later, he graduated as the youngest and most highly evaluated student in its history. At just 15, Leon marched onto the battlefield, slaying dragons and reclaiming territory for the Empire. His name spread across the land as the strongest dragon slayer, the Empire's beacon of hope to end the war. That was until he was captured and enslaved by the Dragon Clan. 2 years had passed since that fateful day. Leon awoke with a scream, his hand instinctively flying to his chest. Gradually, his breathing slowed as he calmed down. Looking around, he found himself in an unfamiliar room. Confused, he wondered where he was, when suddenly the door opened. A small girl entered, and Leon was struck by her innocence and beauty. He blinked, trying to understand what was happening. Rising from the bed, he gazed at the girl, her presence so pure, he thought she must be an angel. Surely he had died and ascended to heaven after his immense service to humanity. But his assumption was wrong. "What's your name?" Leon asked, still in disbelief. The girl smiled sweetly. "Muan." Though her response made him feel strangely happy, something about her was odd. Her hair, black and white, seemed unlike anything he'd ever seen. Muan mentioned that her mother told her the name meant the moon, which left Lion confused. Did angels even have mothers? Introducing himself, Leon was startled when the little girl excitedly responded that Leon meant lion. Surprised, he asked how she knew that. She smiled and said it was what her mother had told her. Feeling a sense of unease, Leon asked, "What's your mother's name?" "Roswis," Muan replied cheerfully. Leon froze. Hearing the name, he quickly pieced it together. He was her father. Muan confirmed it with a joyful grin. Panic surged through him. How could this be possible? How could he have a child with Ross Weiss? Just then, Muan turned toward the door where her mother stood, sending a chill down Leon's spine. "Mama, Daddy's awake!" Muan called out, running toward her. Ross Weiss's lips curled into a smile, but it wasn't the one her daughter imagined. Muan assumed her mother was happy since she visited him every day. But as Roswis stroked her daughter's head, she wore a wicked grin. "Go outside and play, dear," Roswis said sweetly. "Your father and I need to talk." Once Muan left the room, Leon stared at Ross in disbelief. "Is Muan really our daughter?" "Yes," she confirmed, closing the door behind her with her tail. "She's our biological child." Leon's mind raced. "Why did you have the child?" he demanded. "Why did you save me?" Rosway revealed that Leon had been asleep for 2 years. She hadn't forgotten what he'd done to her, and she wasn't going to let it go. Leon's anger flared. He hadn't meant for any of that to happen. "We're different," he growled. "We can't coexist. I would have never touched you if things had been different." Seeing the torment in his eyes, Rosis's expression darkened. "Oh, it was torture for you, was it?" She wrapped her tail around his leg, yanking him onto the bed. Climbing on top of him, she tore his shirt open, and with a cold gleam in her eyes, activated a spell. She was going to carve her own dragon mark into him, binding him to her forever. Even though Leon begged her not to, Roswise touched his chest, and a glowing magic circle appeared. This mark was to become his eternal shame. From this moment on, he would be her prisoner, bound to her forever, unable to leave. When his companions saw the dragon tattoo on his body, they would believe he had betrayed them and surrendered to the Dragon Clan. Leon still couldn't understand why she was doing this. Revenge among the dragon race was a mystery that had baffled human scientists for years. Their vengeance was not just extreme. It was an inhuman, paranoid obsession beyond human comprehension. For the Dragon Queen, it wasn't enough to defeat him. She wanted him to live in shame and suffer humiliation for the rest of his life. As the spell took hold, Leon began to feel an overwhelming desire he couldn't control. For the Silver Dragon Queen, it was a great honor to break Leon, the greatest dragon slayer in human history, and make him her slave, her closest companion. Now that he was fully under the spell, she climbed on top of him, deciding it was time to make him hers in every way. At the Silver Dragon Castle, even the maids noticed the queen was in an unusually good mood. Word spread quickly. The Dragon Queen's husband had finally awakened. Leon, overhearing this from a hidden corner, was shocked. She had publicly declared him her husband. No one knew just how terrifying she truly was. She had spent the entire day and night with him, and poor Leon's body was nearly broken. His waist felt as if it had been shattered. Furious, Leon swore he would not stay here to be her plaything. Stealthily, he slipped out of his room and made his way to the side door of the castle, but 4 dragon guards stood watch. Escape seemed impossible. The castle was eerily quiet with far fewer guards than there had been 2 years ago. Something was strange about all of this. While Leon was figuring out how to avoid the guards, he stumbled upon a hidden hole in the grass. Silently, he approached it and saw a faint light coming from the other side. Unsure if it was a trap, he decided not to dwell on it. He had to escape no matter what. Even if it was a trap, he would force his way through. Without hesitation, Lion began crawling through the narrow tunnel. He muttered a sarcastic farewell to the perverted Dragon Queen. And as for little Muan, though she was adorable, she would have to stay behind for now. Meanwhile, on the balcony, Muan ran to her mother, excitedly, announcing, "Father is digging a hole for the dog." The Dragon Queen, lounging in a bikini and sipping wine, chuckled at Leon's audacity. Muan eagerly asked, "When are you going to fish him back?" Roswise scolded her gently, saying that fish was too rude. "Say catch him back instead," she corrected with a smirk. Muan, a bit confused, nodded and agreed. As night fell, Leon finally managed to escape the castle and darted into the nearby forest. He knew if he could climb the mountains ahead, he'd be able to see the border of human territory. After running for hours, Leon felt confident that the Dragon Queen wouldn't be able to catch up to him. But to his dismay, the sky suddenly darkened, and the Dragon Queen, now in her true dragon form, appeared above him, praising him for being such a fast runner. Seeing her, Leon cursed his luck and bolted, but Roswise quickly landed in front of him, blocking his path. To his surprise, she wasn't angry. In fact, she seemed quite pleased. "Impressive, Leon," she said with a wicked smile. "I was the one who distracted the guards for you, and I left that little hole for you to find." Although Leon knew it was a trap, he had no other choice. He hadn't expected her to catch up with him so quickly. Returning to human territory now, marked with the Dragon Queen's seal on his chest. No one would recognize him as a dragon slayer. But Leon didn't care anymore. He was determined to start over as an ordinary man, believing it was far better than being tortured by her. Seeing his defiance, the Dragon Queen spread her wings, furious that he didn't appreciate her kindness. She grabbed him with her claw, and together they soared toward human territory. After 3 hours of flight, night fell and the Dragon Queen released Leon near the border city of the Empire, sending him tumbling through the trees before crashing headfirst onto the ground. Dazed, Leon's headache vanished when he realized he was close to a human village. The Dragon Queen, now in her human form, confirmed they were indeed within the human empire's borders. For most, the sight of a familiar city brought hope, just one step away from returning to the human world. But for Lion, that hope felt unreachable. Suddenly, the mark on his chest began to glow. The Dragon Queen had neglected to mention an important detail. When one of the two bearers of the dragon mark desired intimacy, the mark would compel the other. As she touched his chest, Leon felt an overwhelming heat and desire surging through him, impossible to resist. She had brought him here to demonstrate his shame, forcing him to confront it in front of his homeland. But Leon wasn't about to give up. Grabbing her arm, he decided to be his time, patiently waiting for the right opportunity to strike back. He swore to repay her double for every humiliation she had inflicted on him. The Dragon Queen, surprised but amused, smiled and agreed to his challenge, saying she would wait for him, dead or alive. As the moon rose, the two of them moved to a tree near the border city of the Empire, their twisted fate bound by the mark in their rivalry. They had been clapping for several hours, leaving the Dragon Queen more than satisfied. Meanwhile, poor Leon was exhausted and quietly crying, drained of both energy and pride. As she touched his chest, she casually decided that from now on, she would bring him back every month to his hometown for more sessions. She was lost in her own thoughts, fantasizing about how to further wear down poor Leon. Satisfied for the moment, the Dragon Queen declared it was time to leave. After all, their daughter was waiting at home. But Leon, his spirit still somewhat intact, stopped her. He refused to be dragged back as her prey. As a dragon slayer, he would walk on his own with what little dignity he had left. She raised an eyebrow, explaining that it would take 3 hours to fly back to the Silver Dragon Castle at her speed, while it would take a human like Leon 10 days, maybe even half a month to walk. Despite this, Leon stubbornly insisted on going on foot, asking her not to underestimate human endurance. Amused, the Dragon Queen smiled, intrigued to see how long he could hold out. After a while, Leon's steps became slower, his exhaustion clear. She silently followed him, waiting for him to admit he was too tired so she could scoop him up and fly. But Leon, though on the verge of collapsing, refused to admit defeat. Mocking him, she teased, "The only tough thing about you is your mouth." Just then, they spotted several knights from the Dragon Slayer army patrolling nearby. Leon's heart leaped with hope. These men could help him escape her grasp. But the Dragon Queen quickly sensed his thoughts, her aura turning deadly. She warned him with her eyes. If he called for help, she wouldn't hesitate to kill him. One of the knights approached, noticing their presence. Are you lost? He asked politely. Leon quickly lied, saying they were simply out for a walk. Deep down, he couldn't bear to involve innocence in his twisted situation. The knight, dismounting from his horse, introduced himself as the captain of the 47th Squadron of the Imperial Dragon Slayers. He pointed out that this jungle wasn't the safest place for a casual stroll due to the dangerous wildlife and species that roamed it. He kindly offered to escort them. Leon panicked, his hands shaking as he quickly thanked the captain for his kindness, insisting that they had learned some self-defense techniques and could handle themselves. In truth, he didn't want the captain to come any closer. The captain seemed to recognize Lion's face, which put the Dragon Queen on high alert. Her eyes narrowed and she subtly began to channel her power, preparing to eliminate the captain if necessary. Realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, Leon acted fast. He grabbed the Dragon Queen's hand and pulled her close to his chest, telling the captain with a nervous smile that he had been mistaken for someone else. He joked that he had such a common face. Even his wife, the Dragon Queen herself, sometimes mistook him for someone else. Leaning in, Leon whispered desperately in her ear, begging her to play along. He promised that if she helped him get rid of the knights, he would obediently return with her. Amused, the Dragon Queen decided to humor him. Both began to put on a convincing display of affection, with Leon holding her close in a mock display of love. The captain, clearly uncomfortable with the sudden outpouring of affection, smiled awkwardly and excused himself, no longer interested in disturbing their romantic moment. As soon as the knights were out of sight, Leon released the Dragon Queen, who was visibly irritated. Realizing his mistake, he quickly stepped back. "You were smart not to ask for help," she remarked coldly, "but let's get one thing straight. Just because we have a child together, that doesn't make me your wife." Leon, still catching his breath, responded, "I never intended to be your husband." The Dragon Queen smirked, satisfied with his answer. She turned to leave, reminding him they had a long journey ahead. But before they could set off, Leon suddenly felt a sharp pain in his hand, and moments later, he collapsed unconscious. Seeing this, the Dragon Queen sighed, amused by how fragile humans could be. Without hesitation, she transformed into her dragon form, gently picked Leon up in her mouth, and tossed him onto her back. Taking his collapse as a silent plea for mercy, she spread her wings and flew toward the Silver Dragon Castle, pleased with how things had turned out. The next day at Silver Dragon Castle, Leon woke up to find little Muan sitting beside his bed. Confused, he wondered how he had ended up back at the castle. Muan cheerfully explained that her mom had brought him back. It didn't take long for Lion to realize that he had finally been captured like prey. Glancing at his hand, he noticed it was bandaged with a neat little bow tied around it. Muan proudly took his hand, explaining that she had done the bandaging herself, clearly hoping for praise. Leon smiled and gently stroked her head, realizing how different she was from what the dragonologists had said about her kind. Dragons were supposed to be fierce, raised in violence and blood from childhood. Yet despite her dragon traits, Moon showed no hostility. She treated him with the warmth of a daughter, leaving him to wonder if this was because she was a human-dragon hybrid. He patted her head affectionately, telling her how amazing she was. "Muan, you're very cute," he said with a smile, then added teasingly, "but when you grow up, don't be like your mother." From the doorway, the Dragon Queen's voice cut in. "And what's wrong with being like me?" Leon froze, startled, realizing she had overheard him. Nervously, he tried to change the subject. Muan, meanwhile, eagerly showed her mother the bandaged hand, explaining that she had followed her mom's instructions perfectly. The Dragon Queen remained cold, giving no praise. "That's what you should do," she replied coolly. Muan simply nodded in understanding, used to her mother's strictness. Trying to lighten the mood, Leon patted Muan's head again. "Why don't you go hide in the garden?" he suggested. "I'll count to 100 and then I'll come find you." Moon's eyes lit up with excitement at the thought of playing hide and seek. As she ran off to hide, Leon glanced at the Dragon Queen, muttering to himself, "I'm definitely not like her mother." Then he began to count as Muan disappeared into the garden. Once Muan left the room, Leon turned to the Dragon Queen and asked why she was being so hard on her. Sitting on the bed, she explained that all dragons were strict with their children from a young age to cultivate strong warriors. Leon countered that Muan was not entirely a dragon, and besides, she was very cute. The Dragon Queen scoffed, stating that Muan was indeed a dragon, and that cute was a derogatory term for one of her kind. Leon thought the Dragon Queen was also quite cute, but his comment only fueled her fury. In a swift motion, she grabbed him by the shirt, reminding him that he was just a slave for her to vent her anger on and was not allowed to outshine her. Leon understood her position, and her mood seemed to lift slightly. After all, she was the Dragon Queen of the Silver Dragon clan, burdened with many governmental matters. As a result, she entrusted him with the responsibility of taking care of Muan. Leaning in close, she whispered in his ear that Muan liked him. Feeling overwhelmed, Leon made his way to the fountain, wishing he could escape the responsibility of caring for children, especially as a dragon slayer. Suddenly, he spotted Muan hiding behind a pillar, clearly underestimating his ability to find her. Pointing at her, he declared, "I found you!" But she remained still, prompting him to question whether she was upset. Apologizing for making her wait, he was taken aback when she suddenly took off running. Leon chased after her, asking, "Why are you running?" Muan turned a corner, causing Lion to lose sight of her. For him, predicting the mood of a child was quite difficult. He no longer doubted why the Dragon Queen had entrusted him with the task of caring for the little one. Just as he was starting to worry, Muan appeared behind him and wrapped him in a hug, leaving him surprised. Confused, he recalled that she had just run past him, but Muan insisted otherwise, explaining that, since her dad hadn't found her, she had gone out to look for him. Though still bewildered, Leon decided he must have seen things wrong. Muan took him by the hand, urging him to follow her, as she had something special to show him. Just then, another girl resembling Muan emerged from behind her and watched them in silence. That day, once the fountains were turned on, little Muan began to shake her head excitedly. She was painting some drawings and having the time of her life. Leon, sitting behind her, couldn't help but smile at the sight, feeling a wave of tenderness. Having a daughter felt good. For the first time, it seemed his soul had begun to heal. While Muan enjoyed herself, Leon clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, deciding it was time to escape the Dragon Queen's grasp. Just then, Muan ran toward him, eager to show him a family drawing she had made. Leon extended his hand with a cheerful smile, ready to praise her. But as he examined the drawing, shock washed over him. Muan had depicted two girls. Initially thinking it was a mistake due to her age, he pointed to the other child in the drawing and asked, "Why are there two children?" With a tender smile, Muan replied, "The other child is my older sister." Upon hearing that Muan had an older sister, Leon panicked. It didn't take long for him to realize that the girl he had seen earlier was not an illusion. The child he had spotted in the garden must be Muan's older sister. He regretted not calling her by name, which had likely caused her to feel upset. However, Muan reassured him that her sister wasn't angry. She was simply a little shy at seeing their dad. Leon rested his hand under his chin, reflecting on the fact that he had never met her before. It made sense that they were unfamiliar with each other. Today was a splendid day, and Leon couldn't shake the feeling that it was all the Dragon Queen's fault for hiding this information from him. He resolved to find her and demand some clarity. Meanwhile, in the Silver Dragon Castle, the Dragon Queen had gone to the library. As she read through some letters, a little messenger dragon arrived with a new message. Just then, the sound of footsteps approaching the library caught her attention. She and the little dragon watched the door intently, and moments later, Leon burst in, clearly furious. He called for her attention as she tucked the letter back into its envelope. With a calm demeanor, she asked him what he wanted. Leon stepped up to the table and explained that he had been playing with Muan and discovered that she had an older sister. He pressed her about when she planned to inform him of this other daughter. The Dragon Queen smiled, somewhat puzzled by his confusion at the revelation. Leon slammed his hand on the table with determination, thanking the Dragon Queen for her hard work. He hadn't expected her to have two children, and it was clear she had put in a tremendous effort. He resolved that when he returned to the Empire one day, he would add her name to his family tree. The Dragon Queen remained calm, a smile gracing her lips, as she asked him if he understood why she hadn't mentioned her older daughter before. Leon speculated that she might be jealous of his closeness with Muan. Fearing that Noah would come to see him, the Dragon Queen was somewhat taken aback by his eagerness to meet Noah. Unlike her, a cold and stern mother, Leon wanted to nurture a good relationship with his daughter. With a soft smile, the Dragon Queen decided to grant Lion's wish, but warned him to consider his choice carefully. As the hours passed and darkness began to settle, Leon headed to the kitchen, a smile stretching across his face as he started cutting some carrots. Today, he was determined to show the Dragon Queen how things should be done. His first step in approaching his eldest daughter was to whet her appetite with a delicious meal. He set to work preparing a hearty meat stew with cream, a dish he often made during his time with the team. Everyone who had tried it claimed it was exceptional, and the sweet flavor was perfect for children. Using a spoon, Leon sampled the stew, savoring its rich taste. He hadn't forgotten how to cook, And as he clenched his fist in determination, he imagined Noah's smile as she declared that she'd love the dishes her dad made. He believed that with this flavorful meal, he could win her over. As he stirred the pot, two maids watched him curiously through the window. One of them couldn't help but feel excited. Leon had just recovered from a serious illness, and for the sake of his family, he had taken it upon himself to cook. To the maids, Leon was the epitome of a good husband, one who genuinely cared for his home. Just then, the Dragon Queen and her two daughters entered the kitchen with Muan eagerly greeting the maids. The Dragon Queen, wanting to create a more relaxed atmosphere for dinner, ordered the maids to take a break. They bowed their heads respectfully and replied, "Understood." As Leon prepared the food and set it on the table, he carried the steaming stew just as the Dragon Queen entered the dining area. Little Muan rushed toward him, drawn by the delicious aroma wafting through the air. With a smile, Leon said, "I heard you both enjoy meat, so I made a special stew and filled just for you." He hoped that this meal would convey his affection to Noah. To his surprise, Noah seemed indifferent to the feast before her gaze wandering elsewhere. Leon was left in shock, confused by her lack of interest. The Dragon Queen smiled knowingly, and in that moment, Leon's frustration flared. He realized that the Dragon Queen had anticipated this reaction, which explained why she had been reluctant for him to meet Noah. It was their first meeting, and the Dragon Queen prompted Noah to introduce herself. Obediently, Noah replied, "I am Noah, the eldest daughter of the Silver Dragon Queen Roswing, that she was 1 year and 2 months old." Dragons were a long-lived race, and young dragons matured much faster than human children. Leon approached her, extending his hand in greeting. "I'm your dad," he introduced himself, hoping to make a good impression. To his surprise, Noah seemed mesmerized by him, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that her indifference was unsettling. He wondered why she appeared so distant and whether she harbored any resentment toward him. Noticing the awkward tension, Muan gently took Noah by the arm and whispered, urging her to engage in conversation so their dad wouldn't feel uncomfortable. But Noah's response stung Leon. "He seems very weak, and I'm not sure he's really our dad." Those words hit Leon like arrows, forcing him to confront the reality of his situation. It quickly became clear that he was facing the first crisis in his new role as Papa Leon. The family sits around a table in an elegant dining room. The atmosphere is tense as they exchange subtle glances with Miwan, quietly seeking help. The twins sit side by side, their similarities apparent, yet their contrasting personalities show even in this quiet moment. Noah eats attentively while Miwan engages in conversation. Leon looks warmly at Noah, asking if she's enjoying the meal, his tone filled with care and curiosity. Suddenly, the peaceful atmosphere is shattered as Noah cries out, and Leon sitting at the table reels in shock from the unexpected outburst. Watching the scene unfold, Rosés covers her mouth in amusement. Clearly entertained by the chaos, Miwan, noticing her mother's laughter and joy, curiously asked why she's so happy. Leon joins in, laughing along with the others, expressing how being surrounded by family fills him with joy. Muan excitedly asks if their father will join them for dinner every day, her face glowing with hope. But Noah, with a serious expression, quickly rejects the idea, making her stance clear. Puzzled, Muan asks why her sister doesn't want them to eat together daily. Struggling to understand her reasoning, their mother calmly questions the urgency of joining a prestigious academy designed for dragons, wondering why her daughter is in such a rush. With confidence, Noah declares her desire to defeat even more dragon subordinates, her determination shining through. Meanwhile, Leon, wiping his face in disbelief, begins to realize she might even be planning to surpass him someday. Gently, he warns her about the dangers of battling fierce dragons, worried for her safety given her young age. Annoyed, Noah crosses her arms and insists she's not a child, much to her father's exasperation. Rosways agrees with her daughter's eagerness to start learning early, believing it will better prepare her to face dragon subordinates in the future. Turning to Leon, she asks if he has a specific reason for wanting to prevent their daughter's education, subtly challenging his concerns. Leon contemplates in frustration, realizing that if he continues to oppose her ambitions, his daughter will only grow more determined to challenge him. Finally, with a resigned sigh, he dismisses his concerns and decides to remain silent for now. Reluctantly, Leon acknowledges that he understands the situation, though he's visibly frustrated. In his mind, he envisions Roswing as a psychological game, aiming to mentally overwhelm him. With a smirk, Rosways warns Leon to be cautious as decisions about their daughter's future are made swiftly, leaving him visibly stressed. Noah is informed that the Academy's entrance exam is in a month, and her father will help her prepare during this time, to which she enthusiastically agrees. As the family dinner concludes, They playfully talk about how full they are, teasing each other lightheartedly. Rosways turns, calling out in a serious tone, catching the attention of someone nearby. Leon gestures to the table, pointing out that the dishes haven't been cleared, expecting some action. Rosways calmly replies that such tasks are best left to others, subtly dismissing his concern. Leon suggests that a proper family dinner should end with both husband and wife cleaning up together. He hints at whether Rosways truly wants to uphold a harmonious family image for the children, or if it's merely for show. The child eagerly awaits the Elore's approval, her excitement unmistakable, as Rosways reluctantly agrees with a calm expression. The child, brimming with enthusiasm, declares her desire to help. Her energy contagious as she eagerly reaches out, determined to be part of the action. Suddenly, Noah finds herself being pulled along in confusion, struggling to keep up with her sister's quick pace, as the scene shifts to a quiet kitchen with dishes left in the sink. Rosways confronts Lion, asking pointedly when he plans to lend a hand. Leon crosses his arms and sternly reminds her of something he told her 2 years ago. Rosways, however, firmly asserts her refusal to deal with someone who has undergone rigorous training, her body radiating with power. Leon stands confidently, demanding to know Rosways' intentions with a sharp tone, reflecting on how he used to be easily manipulated. But things have changed. Rosways launches a powerful attack, warning him not to think he can escape so easily. Leon catches her strike with a firm grip, standing his ground and asking with a smirk, "Who said I was trying to escape?" Rosways groans in pain, struggling to maintain her strength, while Leon taunts her for being unable to fight back, mockingly, calling her a fallen queen. He smugly explains how the effects of the dragon's mark have weakened her, comparing her to a helpless kitten as he reveals newfound knowledge from her tribe's ancient texts. Sensing her shock, he taunts her thirst for control. Rosways stunned questions whether he has ever truly been conquered. Breathing heavily, her face flushed with emotion, she demands her tail be released, indicating that she's being restrained. Leon, holding her tail, speaks in a calm yet menacing tone, accusing her of disrespecting his dignity since the day he awoke. His smug expression contrasts sharply with her shocked, vulnerable state as she glares at him angrily. Rosways responds fiercely, refusing to submit and calling him a bastard. Her emotions boiling over as she challenges his dominance. She stares at him, clearly taken aback by his bold actions. Meanwhile, two maids gossip in the hallway, wondering if the queen and her family have finished their private time, their curiosity hinting at something unusual happening inside. Peeking into the kitchen, they're shocked to find it sparkling clean, as if someone had meticulously scrubbed every corner. The maids speculate whether the prince is responsible for the surprising tidiness. One of them, delighted by the spotless state of the kitchen, happily holds up a polished plate. Meanwhile, Leon stands silently, observing the situation with a calm yet focused expression. Holding Rosways tightly, he warns her to stay quiet to avoid discovery by the maids, mocking her fall from grace as she finds herself in a vulnerable position. The door to the room shuts firmly, and Rosways' eyes blaze with anger and determination, betraying her inner struggle against the humiliating circumstances. Leon smirks, tightening his grip on Rosways as he mockingly calls her his wife and suggests they get started. His expression shifts to a cold, determined gaze, showing his complete control over the moment. Rosways' eyes fill with helplessness and exhaustion, but she barely responds, seeming resigned to her fate. 3 days later, the scene shifts to a bright, majestic castle, standing tall under a clear blue sky. Two sisters stand by their father's bedside, worried as he hasn't woken up in 3 days. They wonder if he might be dead, but one of them calmly reassures the other to wait and see. Suddenly, Leon reacts as he's kicked in the face, groaning in pain from the unexpected hit. Noah, her foot still on his face, remarks that their father isn't dead yet. Startled and somewhat hurt, Lion questions if any child would treat their parent this way. As Leon regains awareness, he finds himself in bed with Miwan by his side, who eagerly reacts to his movement as if she's been waiting for this moment. With joy, Miwan announces that he's regained consciousness, while Noah sits nearby, observing. Confused, Leon wonders when he even fainted. As he slowly sits up in bed, Rosways calmly offers to help Leon recall the events that led to his unconsciousness. A flashback reveals him being struck hard by Razu. He remembers how the dragon mark on him became powerless after that night, triggering the painful moment when he was struck. Leon reflects on Rasua's ruthlessness, realizing her power is overwhelming and could have easily ended him if he had been any weaker. Still recovering, Leon sits quietly on the bed, watching Rosways, who has turned her back to him. He notes her beauty despite her intimidating strength and realizes she is a dragon over 200 years old. Muan, noticing her father's stillness, wonders why he isn't moving, speculating that he is simply stunned by their mother's appearance, hinting at the awe she inspires. Rosways is caught off guard as someone abruptly strikes a nearby surface, drawing her attention. Her expression shifts in surprise. Leon reaches down to pick up a flower accessory from the floor and gently places it on Razu, stating that it suits her. Rosways reacts with surprise at Lion's thoughtful gesture, questioning if he's ever done something like this for other women. Leon chuckles and explains that as a child he used to comb his master's donkey, claiming he has some skill in it. Muan looks up at Leon and innocently asks what a donkey is, catching him off guard. Smiling, Leon explains that donkeys are similar to dragons, but much smaller, stubborn, and make humming sounds when unhappy. He then imitates a donkey's behavior, amusing one with his antics. Rosways watches intently, noting the similarity between a donkey's stubbornness and her own personality. Leon suddenly recoils in fear as Rosway strikes him, sending him reeling. He clutches his stomach, wincing in pain, but reassures Muan that he's fine when she asks if he's okay. Rosways assigns the task of teaching the girls to write, declaring that Leon will handle it. Leon, taken aback, realizes he's been volunteered without any say. Muan excitedly cheers that their father will teach them, while Noah confidently claims she already knows how. The two girls race off to the study room, eagerly discussing which colorful pens they want to use. Meanwhile, Ross informs Leon that her sister's coming to visit and that she doesn't want him appearing in front of her. Leon looks surprised, puzzled as to why he's being told to avoid the meeting, and voices his frustration about not being allowed to meet her family. Rosways reminds him that he is now part of the Silver Dragon clan and was in a coma for 2 years due to a mysterious illness. She explains that he has only recently woken up, emphasizing the complexity of his new situation. Rosways warns him that if he is ever forced to meet her sister, he must stick to the false identity she has crafted for him. Rosways emphasizes the importance of keeping up the story, and Leon listens intently, still processing the situation. With a serious expression, he acknowledges her instructions, respectfully addressing her as Your Majesty. After Razo leaves, Leon questions whether he'll truly follow her orders, standing alone as he begins to plot ways to embarrass her in front of her sister. The scene shifts to the children's study room in Silver Dragon Castle, where Lion sits at a table, teaching Noah and Muan to write their names. He demonstrates patiently guiding them step by step as they watch attentively. After writing their names as examples, he asks them to practice by copying his writing. Muan looks excited while Noah's expression remains more serious. Studying Lion's writing, Noah comments that it isn't as good as her mother's, hinting at her high expectations. Leon feels a twinge of frustration at the comparison, sensing the pressure to meet her standards. When Leon stands to leave, Muan curiously asks what he's planning. He replies that he forgot to deliver something to their mother and assures them he'll check on their progress later, though his carefree attitude leaves Noah doubting his seriousness. Muan teases her sister for seeming happy, which Noah sternly denies, insisting they focus and practice as instructed. She looks down with a soft blush, momentarily thoughtful. The scene transitions to the grand gates of Silver Dragon Castle, where soldiers and prominent figures gather for a formal event. There, Isha Melki, the Red Dragon Queen, stands confidently, her striking red hair and royal attire, making a powerful impression. Rosways rushes to embrace her sister, their close bond evident in the warm reunion. The reunion is filled with warmth as Aisha and Rosways joyfully greet each other after a long time apart. Issa Milky compliments her sister, noting how vibrant she looks since their last meeting. Rosway seems a bit taken back by the compliment, modestly disagreeing. Curious, Isha inquires about Rosway's husband, having heard that he has finally woken up. She wonders aloud why she hasn't been allowed to see him yet. Rosways explains that her husband is unwell and cannot meet with Isa at the moment. Disappointed, Isa admits she was eager to see what the Dragon King who kidnapped her sister looks like. With a teasing tone, she hints at the dynamics of Rosway's relationship, suggesting that their quick marriage and child imply a strong bond. Rosways becomes defensive, firmly rejecting the notion that marriage and children necessarily signify a good relationship. She firmly denies any attraction to her husband, both in the past and for the future. Aisha smirks, commenting on her sister's toughness, recognizing that her strong personality remains unchanged. Rosways cheerfully suggests they take a walk in the garden to chat, showcasing their strong bond. Aisha agrees, allowing her sister to lead the way. The sisters stroll together, smiling and enjoying each other's company. Meanwhile, Leon observes the two sisters from a distance using a telescope, recognizing Rosui's sister. He watches intently, gathering information as he studies them from afar. Determined to test the range of the dragon pattern, he seeks to discover how far its power can extend. As Aisha and Rosways wander through a beautiful garden filled with blooming roses, they discuss the recent instability within the dragon clan. They note that the Red Flame Dragon King has been particularly active lately, raising concerns among them. Rosways is taken aback when she hears the name Constantine mentioned in connection with the recent turmoil. She questions her sister, recalling that Constantine has been missing for years. Aisha speculates that he may be attempting to expand his territory using the current chaos to his advantage. Suddenly, Rosways reacts in shock, her body glowing with energy as something unexpected occurs. Her eyes widen as she senses something unusual happening around her. Noticing the change in her sister's demeanor, Aisha asks, "What is wrong?" Rosways quickly brushes it off with a smile, assuring her sister that nothing is amiss and encouraging her to continue speaking. However, Rosways can't help but think about the Dragon Slayer, reminiscing about past incidents. In her thoughts, she mutters a frustrated remark about Lion, referring to him as a damn Dragon Slayer. Isha continues talking, stating that they need to strengthen the border defenses and that she will send someone to contact her if there are any developments. Amused by the idea of the dragon pattern, Isha mentions how young people are casually playing around with it. Meanwhile, Leon reclines comfortably in a chair, contemplating how long Rosu can endure the effects of the dragon pattern. Suddenly, the door bursts open and Rosway storms into the room. Clearly upset, she grabs Leon by his collar, accusing him of deliberately activating the dragon pattern to embarrass her in front of her sister. Seeing Ross Weiss's anger, Leon quickly decides to play innocent and fool her. He looks affectionately at her, making a pitiful face as he gazes into her eyes. "Is it wrong for me to want you?" he asks. Ross Weiss is taken aback and lets go of his collar, her face turning red as a tomato at his unexpected words. To hide her reaction, she covers her face with her hand. Leon smiles to himself, thinking with surprise that his act seems to be working. He wonders if at the very least she's disgusted with him now. Blushing, Ross Weiss turns away and calls him shameless, reminding him that he's just a defeated prisoner who shouldn't be speaking such nonsense. She tells him to put away his dirty thoughts. Leon remains silent, smiling calmly, while Ross Weiss glances at him with a flushed face, thinking, "I came here to confront him, so why did his words throw me off?" She leaves with an angry blush, warning him that he got lucky this time. But if he tries something like this again, she won't let it slide. Leon, with a teasing look, thinks to himself how terrified he is, amused that a single word could leave her so flustered. He reflects that the dragon pattern really is powerful. As he purrs, his face warms, and he realizes his heart beats faster whenever he thinks of her. Composing himself, he mutters, "Cosmode, wake up. Stop thinking about nonsense." He reminds himself that the kids are still waiting for him to return, but it's clear that he and Roswi are beginning to feel something for each other, marking a new turn in the story. In the study room, Noah practices writing diligently while Muan, slacking off, wonders aloud why Dad hasn't come back yet. The romance between Leon and Roswi begins to reach a new stage, adding twists and surprises to the plot. Later that night at Silver Dragon Castle, Aisha waves goodbye to Roswis, saying she'll head out tonight. Roswis, waving back, reminds her sister to be careful on the road. Aisha transforms into her red dragon form, playfully asking Roswis to let her meet her husband next time. Roswis agrees, promising they'll have more time to talk. As Aisha, accompanied by her knights, flies back to her own castle, Roswi watches her sister's departure with a pensive look. "I thought there'd be some trouble in this chapter," she thinks. But it seems Aisha's departure wasn't quite what I expected. Who knows what the future holds for this family's mischief? With a serious expression, Roswise grits her teeth, staring ahead with determination. "Damn Dragon Slayer," she thinks. He still hasn't learned his lesson. She decides tonight will be different. Meanwhile, Leon on the other side of the castle sneezes repeatedly, wondering if someone's talking about him. He settles down to read the story of the young dragon as a bedtime story for Noah and Juan. As he reads, the girls drift off to sleep, looking absolutely adorable. Smiling, he quietly closes the book, gently tucking them in and whispering, "Don't catch a cold." Leon slowly exits the room, taking care not to disturb his sleeping daughters. Just as he shuts the door, Roswi suddenly slams her hand against it with a loud thud, startling him. Her serious expression catches him off guard as she asks, "Where are you planning to go?" With an awkward look, Leon glances at her. "Is your sister gone?" he asks. With a sly smile, Rosswise replies, "We still have things to settle tonight." She grabs his collar, dragging him forward with determination. Leon protests, but she pulls him along, ignoring his resistance. In the Silver Dragon Queen's bedroom, Lion places a tub of hot water down with a loud clatter in front of her. "The hot water's ready," he says, looking at her with a hint of exasperation. "What do you need it for?" Roseby stretches her legs out in front of Leon, looking at him with an air of superiority. "I'm exhausted from walking all day," she says. "Wash my feet." Leon stares at her, stunned. His expression shifts to serious disbelief as he takes in her request. Roswy, with a commanding look, adds, "Enough with the nonsense, just do it. This is your punishment for today." Sighing in frustration, Leon removes her heels, thinking to himself, "I'm a dragon slayer, and now I'm reduced to being a foot-washing servant for a dragon." As he looks down at her feet, he can't help but wonder just how many dragon slayers have fallen under them. Ross Weiss notices him staring and frowns. What is he thinking, she wonders. A blush creeps onto her face as she begins to suspect he might have a strange fascination. Before she can say anything, Leon grins mischievously and plunges her feet into the hot water. "Get down here," he says half playfully. The water is scalding, and Rosswise immediately recoils, her expression shocked. She kicks him under the chin, shouting, "It's too hot, you fool!" Her kick sends him flying back, and Leon hits the ground, coughing up blood. With a cold, piercing look, Rosswy steps onto his chest, pinning him down. "You did this on purpose, didn't you?" she asks icily, trying to get back at me. Leon, his defiance undiminished, gives her an arrogant smile. "Well, you're the one who demanded I wash your feet." Rosswise's cheeks flush as she looks down at him. "Seems you still haven't learned your lesson," she says slowly, dragging her foot down his chest. Her tone drops to a mocking whisper. "I bet you never thought you'd end up beneath a dragon." As Rosswise presses her foot down on his lower body, Leon feels a wave of conflicting emotions. His face flushes from her touch, and in a strained voice, he tells her to stop. He's torn between the humiliation of the situation and an odd sense of comfort. Rosswise, smirking with a touch of arrogance, leans in. "I'm curious," she says coolly. "Just how long can you endure this?" Leon, still flushed, glances up at her defiantly. "I won't give in to this dragon's games," he thinks, steadying himself. With a sudden move, he catches her leg, and as he stands, he grins confidently. "I've had pigs trotters, cows trotters, goats trotters, but dragons trotters. Now that's something new." Rosswhite's eyes widen, her face turning red as she asks, "What are you doing?" Without missing a beat, Leon playfully bites her leg, exclaiming, "Tonight's snack, raw dragon claws." As Leon bites her leg, Rosswy screams angrily, threatening to kill him. The next morning, Moon and Noah wake up. Noah is fully alert while Moon is still half asleep. When Rosswise enters the room, her leg wrapped in bandages. Moon notices and asks, "Mom, why are you limping?" Rosswise brushes it off, replying, "It's nothing." Meanwhile, Leon sports a bandage on his cheek. Noticing it, Moon turns to him asking, "Dad, why do you have bruises on your face?" Mirroring Rosswise's posture, Leon folds his arms and says, "It's nothing." Moon, puzzled and curious, places her hands on her hips, staring at both Leon and Rosswise with a questioning expression. Suddenly an idea pops into her head, and her face lights up with excitement. "You must have been playing some fun game without me," she exclaims, raising her hand. "I want to play too." Noah, arms folded, watches her sister with a blank expression, silently observing the scene. Later, Leon and Rosswy walk in the garden outside the Silver Dragon Castle. Both look away from each other, each lost in their own thoughts. One maid nudges another, pointing and saying, "Look, the queen and the prince are on a date." The blue-haired maid giggles, adding, "What a lovely couple they are." However, she then remarks that they seem a bit distant. The other maid watches them contentedly. Rosevis and Leon continue walking in silence, the quiet between them stretching. Leon, watching Rossweiss from behind, wonders how things ended up this way. He thinks back, recalling how she had earlier suggested they take a walk together. Shocked, he'd asked why he should walk with her. Rosswy had replied that it was his duty to keep up the appearance of family harmony for the sake of outsiders. In the garden, Leon glances at Rossweiss, sensing something unusual about her today. She's not typically this proactive, and he wonders what she might be planning. Meanwhile, Moon and Noah, hiding behind a nearby tree, observe their mom and dad. Moon mutters to herself that Dad is so clueless he can't even hold hands. Suddenly, an idea pops into her mind. With determination and bright eyes, she clenches her tiny fists and declares that she's going to help them. Noah, taken aback, tries to stop her. "Wait, Moon," she says, but Moon doesn't listen. She jumps up and runs toward them. Noah calls out again, telling her to leave them alone. But Moon, already in motion, ignores her words. As she nears, Moon calls out to her parents. Hearing her voice, Leon and Rosswise turn, surprised to see her racing toward them. Leon asks why Moon followed him, but before he can finish, Moon grabs both his and Rosswi's hands, quickly linking them together. Both Leon and Rosswi are startled by her sudden action. With a cheerful smile, Moon says, "When you take a walk, you're supposed to hold hands." Then with a quick spin, she runs back, saying she's going to play with her sister. Leon watches her leave, wondering where this child learned such things. Back at the tree, Noah pinches Moon's cheeks, scolding her for not listening. Moon, tearing up cutely, admits she was wrong, promises not to do it again, and asks her sister to let go. Leon and Rosswise stand in silence, still holding hands, wearing blank, confused expressions. Blushing, Leon looks away and says that this is a bit unexpected, asking what he should do. Rosswis, also blushing, replies softly that it's okay. They can just hold hands for now. While they chat and stroll, Moon and Noah watch them from behind a tree, curious and observant. Leon glances at Ross and reflects on how she has always presented herself as a dignified queen before others. Yet he didn't expect her to be so flustered by something as simple as holding hands. Leon then brings up the way Moon and Noah address her, noting that they always call her mother in front of others. He gently suggests that the usual way of addressing parents is mom and dad. He points out that while Moon calls him dad, she calls Rosswise mother and wonders if it makes her seem more distant to them. Rosswise looks away and after a pause asks if there's really that much of a difference between mother and mom. Leon, looking at Rosswi with a bright smile, suggests that there is a difference and encourages her to have the kids call her mom instead. He bets they'll feel closer to her that way. Rosswis's face flushes red, caught off guard by Leon's cheerfulness. After composing herself, she nods and says she'll try it next time. Leon, surprised by her sudden enthusiasm, asks why she's speeding up. As they continue walking in the garden, Rosswi suddenly asks if Leon feels homesick. He raises an eyebrow and questions why she's bringing it up, since she won't let him go back anyway. Leon, curious but silent, follows her until they arrive at the castle's large warehouse doors. As they stand before it, he wonders aloud what it might be. Rossweiss explains that it doesn't have an official name. He can call it a warehouse, utility room, or whatever he likes. She unlocks the door with a key and leads him inside. As Leon looks around, he exclaims, "The dragon's treasure trove." Picking up a bracelet, he comments that if it were in the Empire, it could easily be worth hundreds of thousands of gold coins. Rossweiss tells him that the bracelet was a gift from her grandmother when she was a child, and that besides the spoils of war, the room holds items with personal significance for her. Leon glances at her thoughtfully, remarking that he hasn't heard her speak much about her family, aside from her sister. Rosswi explains that she never met her parents and was raised along with her sister by their grandmother. Leon, surprised, shares that his own story is similar. He grew up in an orphanage, not knowing his parents until he was later adopted by his master and his wife. Leon looks at Rossweiss and asks why she brought him here. Opening a treasure chest, she replies that she has something that might temporarily help him forget his troubles. Leon, still confused, remains silent. When Rossweiss opens the chest, Leon's eyes widen with surprise and he exclaims, "It's the black gold armor!" Leon, in disbelief, asks if he's dreaming, and if she's truly going to give it back to him. With a cunning smile and a dark glint in her eyes, Rosswi confirms it. As Lion reaches out and touches the chest plate of the black armor, a blue light begins to glow. Shocked, he realizes it's enchanted with a dragon mark. Internally, he thinks, "Black gold armor, my faithful friend. How did you fall into her hands?" Rossweiss, still smirking, tells Leon he has finally fallen into her trap. Now furious, Leon clenches his teeth and glares at her. It seems we're about to witness yet another heated encounter between Leon and Rosswi. Now Leon seems shocked and confused as he asks Rossweiss what she's planning to do. Tells him that she has attached a dragon pattern to the surface of his armor to enhance its properties. After hearing this, Leon feels uneasy and collapses, clutching his chest as if in pain, while cursing Ross in his mind, calling her a despicable dragon woman. He blames himself, thinking he was careless for letting his guard down. While Leon trembles, Rosisa laughs wickedly, telling him that the enhanced dragon pattern has doubled its effect. She touches his chain, addressing him as her dear dragon slayer, and tauntingly asks if he can endure it, clearly mocking him. Leon, rendered helpless by the effect, softly calls her name Rosweiss before suddenly collapsing. As he lies there unable to move, he realizes with growing frustration that he's been completely tricked by Rosweiss. Desperately, he thinks, "Damn it, my body won't move," while an undeniable urge surges through him, stronger than ever. Seeing him in this vulnerable state, Rosisa takes advantage of the situation, approaching him with both kindness and devilish intent. With a sly smile, she tells him, "Did you really think I wouldn't hold a grudge after what you did?" She goes on to say that she has been waiting for her chance to take revenge, and the past few days have only fueled her determination. Now, with his guard down, she has seized the perfect opportunity to fool him. Roswi, unable to hold back any longer, seduces him while teasingly asking if her performance has been convincing. Leon, angry and conflicted, shouts, demanding to know if everything she said and did up until now was a lie. Rosisa simply smiles, correcting him. His doubts are unfounded. She admits that she hasn't lied, that her feelings were real, and she too has begun to fall for him. Smiling warmly, she finally confesses her affection. Removing her clothes and all that covers her body. Laughing, she declares that she actually likes being conquered by him. And with a sense of finality, she officially addresses Leon as her husband. Leon lay there helpless, almost like a bedridden patient, feeling as though this might be the end. But this intensified moment soon transformed into a joyful one as the two began to admit their true feelings, finally acknowledging that they truly loved each other. After a while, Leon, our lucky protagonist, happily sighed, relieved that it was over. Dramatically, he looked up, while Ross watched him with a content expression. Seeing her look, Leon grew annoyed and demanded in his usual blunt manner to know why she was staring at him like that. In response, Roswi leaned in, grabbed his mouth, and whispered in his ear, "Compared to 2 years ago, the scars on your face have faded a little." Unmoved by her words, Leon snapped back, saying she was just trying to trick him again and that he wouldn't fall for it this time. Roswa simply smiled at him and remarked, "You've gotten smarter, Leon." Leon, instantly suspicious, looked at her with a questioning expression as she hesitated, stopping mid-sentence with a "but." Rosisa, blushing, then laughed and said that his health wasn't as good as it used to be. Hearing this, Leon's eyes widened in shock, feeling as though his whole world had shattered with just that one sentence. His face went pale, imagining that she was implying he was no longer as fit as he once was. His mind raced, and as his thoughts spiraled, his jaw dropped wider and wider at the implication that he wasn't as good as before. Finally, he let out a loud scream, overwhelmed by his own fears and wild imagination. The next day at Silver Dragon Castle, Leon appeared with dark circles and bags under his eyes. As he opened the door, he announced his arrival, saying, "I'm here." Entering the room, he found Ross, Weiss, and Noah waiting inside. Roswi folded her arms and greeted him with a "good morning," smirking and mockingly remarking, "It seems you didn't sleep well last night." Gritting his teeth in frustration, Leon replied that it was all because of what she had said. Laughing, Rosisa teasingly claimed, "I don't remember saying anything at all." From the sidelines, Noah watches the exchange between Leon and Roswi, thinking, "It's starting again." Rossweiser shifts the conversation, mentioning that the entrance exam for St. Heath Academy is very strict, and tells Leon he should begin tutoring Noah on dragon knowledge today. As she moves closer, leaning in and whispering in his ear, she taunts him, saying that for now he can only demonstrate his value in other areas. Hearing this, Leon, fueled by anger, snaps back that he just wasn't in the best shape yesterday. With a determined expression, he points a finger at Ross and loudly declares that he'll make sure Noah passes the test. However, he adds that in return, he wants something of equal value from her. Rosisa smirks, saying she's willing to agree to his request, but warns that his demand can't be too excessive. Leon firmly replies that a promise is a promise. Laughing, Rosisa walks away, telling him he should study hard. With a mocking tone, she calls him "dear" and warns him not to get too tired. Roswisa waves dismissively as she walks away. Noah, observing the interaction, asks Lion why he quarrels with her mom. Folding his arms, Leon denies it, saying it's just their daily communication. Then, surprised, he asks Noah what she just called her mother. Noah replies, "Mom." Taken aback, Leon steps closer and asks if she was told to change to that name. He then inquires whether she prefers the old name or the current one. Noah, looking away with a slight blush, replies that she prefers the current one. Leon smiles brightly at her, saying he knew they'd love it. Surprised by her father's cheerful demeanor, Noah remains silent, simply looking at him. As she turns to leave, she asks when they can start studying. Leon, caught off guard, calls out to her, telling her to wait for him. Now in the heart of Silver Dragon Castle, the night stretched out in eerie silence. But in the children's study room, a lone light flickered. Leon sat hunched over his desk, eyes locked on a stack of ancient Dragon Clan tomes, his mind deep in thought. The rest of the castle had long succumbed to sleep, including his children. Yet in the midst of this quiet, Ross's wife swept into the room. She raised an eyebrow. She spotted Lion still engrossed in his books. "Oh, you're still awake this late?" she asked. Leon didn't even look up, instead tapping his temple with his pen, as if working through some complex puzzle. "Noah is quick to grasp concepts," he muttered. "I need to design an entire curriculum. Key concepts, test questions. Looks like I'll be pulling an all-nighter." After all, Noah is like me. Leon smirked, finally looking up from his books to meet her gaze. "Is she, though?" he challenged, a glint of mischief in his eye. He stood up, stretching his tall frame with a flourish, folding his arms with dramatic flair. "I was a top dragon-slaying genius every year, you know," he declared, sounding almost as proud as Ross. Leon boasted, tossing her a smirk over his shoulder, as if daring her to top that. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming with a playful taunt. "So, Your Majesty, what were your accomplishments?" For once, Ross Weiss looked stumped. Her dragon-slaying record spoke for itself, and there was no question about her military prowess. Her pride took a hit as she realized he might be sharper than she'd given him credit for. With a disdainful smirk, she countered, "So powerful, yet still my captive, aren't you?" A dragon slayer of his caliber, felled by none other than the Silver Dragon Queen herself, now reduced to a near-constant cycle of defeat and exhaustion under her relentless watch. Suddenly her gaze fell on the bright yellow peppers, her eyebrows arching in suspicion. "What are you doing with these?" she asked. Leon blinked as if just noticing them for the first time. "Oh, those," he said with a casual shrug. "Brought them from the kitchen to help keep me awake." Ross's expression shifted from confusion to genuine concern. "Those are Dragon Clan yellow peppers. You're a human. There's no way you can." But it was too late. Leon had already popped one into his mouth, chewing confidently for all of 2 seconds. His face instantly turned as red as the fire in a dragon's belly. "So spicy," he gasped, his eyes bulging as his mouth became a molten furnace. He began pacing, patting his face and darting around the room, frantically searching for water. Ross, torn between sympathy and amusement, shook her head. Watching Leon scramble about, she couldn't help herself. She stepped forward and caught his face in her cool hands. Their eyes met and both froze. Leon's cheeks were blazing, though this time perhaps not just from the pepper. Ross quickly looked away, clearing her throat in a half-hearted attempt at nonchalance. "My hands are cool," she said, her voice casual but not quite. It might help. As her fingers rested against his flushed cheeks, Leon's panic gradually melted into a strange, unexpected calm. Her touch was gentle, easing the pepper's searing heat in a way that didn't sting or shock, but soothed. He closed his eyes, letting the coolness of her fingertips wash over him, the burns slowly fading. Despite himself, Leon felt an unexpected sense of comfort from the simple gesture. "Thank you," he murmured, reluctantly pulling back, though the warmth on his face lingered, now mixed with an undeniable blush. Ross dropped her hands and stepped back, her expression unreadable as she turned to leave. "Get some rest and try not to eat the peppers again," she said, sarcasm slipping in as she moved toward the door. Leon nodded, muttering a half-hearted, Yeah, got it," but his gaze lingered on her as she left. When she was gone, he groaned, fanning his cheeks as if the memory of her touch might be hotter than the pepper itself. Yet reality soon crashed in as he recalled her usual treatment. His arms crossed defensively, squeezes you dry, then blames your lack of endurance when you can barely stand. Determined, he grabbed a book and began flipping through the pages, searching for a solution to his problem. After a few minutes of browsing, his eyes lit up. Black Dragon Pill, a highly effective body-strengthening elixir, nourishing and stabilizing the core. Jackpot. Perfect, he muttered, his eyes alight with excitement as he stared at the entry as though he'd found treasure. A broad grin spread across his face, and with renewed hope, Leon began preparing himself to work on his resilience. The next morning was unusually bright and sunny. Outside the window, a pair of birds, one small and yellow, the other large and white, sat on a branch, chirping back and forth like they were deep in conversation. Inside, however, the atmosphere between Leon and his daughter Noah was far less harmonious. He sat across from her, grading her test with a carefully suppressed grin. "Noah," he began, trying to keep a straight face, "I just finished grading the test you took. Out of a possible 100 points. Care to guess what you got?" Noah fixed him with her usual deadpan stare, her expression as unmoving as stone. 50, Leon snorted, pulling out the test paper with exaggerated drama. "A whole 62. Actually, you underestimated yourself." Noah's eyes narrowed as she stared down at her test, scanning the answers with a quiet intensity. Her small hands tightened around the paper, and her brows furrowed ever so slightly. It was clear she wasn't thrilled with her score. Leon softened as he watched her, noticing how serious she was, mature, even for someone her age. While her younger sister Moon was probably outside chasing butterflies or counting clouds, Noah had approached her studies with a tenacity that had surprised him. She could be so painfully hard on herself, almost like, well, like her mother. Reaching out, Leon placed a hand on her head, musing her hair gently. "For a first try, 62 is pretty impressive, kid." Noah glanced up at him, her cheeks barely coloring at the rare compliment. "Thanks," she mumbled, a touch of pride slipping into her usually stoic tone. But just as Leon leaned in to offer more encouragement, he was struck by an unexpected coughing fit. He quickly turned away, wincing as he rubbed his throat. "Sorry about that," he managed to croak, his voice rasping. His eyes watered slightly as the irritation settled in, and he immediately remembered the pile of yellow Dragon Clan peppers he had munched on the night before. Just then, Noah's expression shifted as though something had dawned on her. She reached into her pocket, rummaged around, and produced a small round tin with dragon throat lozines, elegantly scrolled across it. She held it out to him, her usual reserve still intact. Leon blinked, surprised. "Is this for me?" Noah's face didn't change, but there was a barely perceptible flicker of embarrassment in her eyes. A grin spread across Leon's face as he popped one of the lozines into his mouth. The soothing mint cut through the scratchiness in his throat almost immediately. "Well, tell your mom thanks from me," he said, giving Noah a meaningful look. The lozenge melted away in his mouth, bringing welcome relief to his pepper-ravaged throat. Leon turned back to Noah, feeling his energy restored. "Now, where were we?" "In the Silver Dragon Castle kitchen." "Leon is up to something intriguing. Let's find out what it is." The maids dutifully bring the items he requested, their movements precise and efficient. One of them, addressing him as Lord Prince, politely informs him that all the herbs he asked for have been delivered. Acknowledging her words with a nod, Leon gestures toward a specific spot on the table. "Place everything there," he instructs. The maids comply, and after arranging the ingredients as directed, quietly exit the room. Leon examines them closely. He notes that the medicinal materials needed to prepare Dragon Great Force are fairly common, and at first glance, the refining process seems straightforward. Undeterred, Leon sets to work. He meticulously recites the steps from memory. First, grind and mix the required herbs. Then add them to the pot in a precise sequence and bring the mixture to a boil. His movements are methodical, his focus unwavering as he works tirelessly for several hours. But as time passes, frustration begins to mount. Finally, Leon throws his head back and lets out a loud, anguished scream. "It failed again!" he exclaims, his voice echoing through the kitchen. Staring at the ruined concoction before him, his shoulders sag. "I followed the instructions from the book perfectly," he mutters under his breath, his gaze fixed on the charred remnants of his latest attempt. Leon presses on, refusing to let frustration take hold. He mutters to himself that the high-temperature separation method described in the book is a delicate balancing act. Too high a temperature destroys the drug, while too low a temperature fails to purify it. Shaking the drug jar in his hand, he grumbles that achieving the precise separation effect manually is nearly impossible without professional instruments. As he continues, Leon remembers his master's words. Suddenly, the sky outside roars with thunder, a reminder of the storm brewing overhead. Glancing up, Leon notices the dark, turbulent clouds and comments, "Looks like it's going to rain soon." Rising to close the windows, he pauses, captivated by the echo of thunder rumbling through the air. The sound stirs something in his memory. As Leon ponders the concepts of lightning and thunder, his thoughts take a sharp turn. His eyes widen as a memory surfaces. His teacher once mentioned during an alchemy lesson that electrolysis of impurities could sometimes yield better results than fire-based methods. Energized by this revelation, Leon feels a spark of inspiration ignite within him. He wonders if the thunder element could be harnessed for separation, a method that isn't mentioned in the manual. With his mind racing, he resolves to test this unconventional theory. He believes the small portion he has regained will suffice for the precision required. Setting aside the traditional method, he decides to use his lightning magic to refine the dragon great force. Carefully, Leon channels the faint but steady flow of lightning energy within him, guiding it to interact with the concoction. Sparks crackle faintly in the air as he meticulously manipulates the separation process. His concentration is absolute, his movements calculated and precise. Half an hour later, Leon steps back, his breath catching as he gazes at the result. A triumphant smile breaks across his face. It worked. He succeeded. The storm outside rages on. But within the castle kitchen, Leon has found a breakthrough. Holding the finished dragon force in his hand, Leon finally feels a wave of accomplishment wash over him. Smiling to himself, he places the medicine in a small box and remarks quietly, "The Dragon Clan's medicine is surprisingly simple to make." Just then, Muan, his adorable daughter, bursts into the kitchen. Her wide eyes immediately spot the small, chocolate-like rounded object in Leon's hand. Curious, she tilts her head and asks, "Dad, what are you making?" Leon glances at her, momentarily distracted. Casually, he replies, "It's something good." But as her sweet voice registers more clearly, Leon pauses, staring at Muan in silence as his thoughts race. Mon, undeterred, looks up at him with bright enthusiasm, clearly expecting more of an explanation. Realizing her presence fully, Leon snaps out of his reverie. "Man!" he exclaims, surprised. Quickly closing the box, he pats her on the head, flashing her a reassuring smile. "It's nothing, really." Man's curiosity isn't so easily brushed aside. "Is it candy?" she asks, her eyes flicking to the box in his hand. Leon chuckles and shakes his head. Showing her the closed box, he says, "It's not candy, it's medicine. Something I made for your mom." Man's cheerful expression shifts into concern. Placing the box into his pocket, Leon kneels to her level and pats her head again. "No, no," he reassures her gently. "Your mom's just been very busy lately. I thought I'd make something to help nourish her." Man seems satisfied for the moment, but still looks at him earnestly. "Dad, you have to take good care of Mom." "Okay." Leon smiles warmly at her. "Of course," he replies. "That's what a dad should do." But inwardly, his thoughts take a mischievous turn, his dark expression concealed behind his calm demeanor. Stormy night with heavy rain and loud thunderstorms. Leon sits in his bedroom, absently tossing the medicine box in his hand. Though he successfully cultivated the Dragon Great Force, he can't help but question whether the Dragon Clan's nutritional supplements might have adverse effects on humans. Catching the box midair, Leon frowns and mutters to himself that he'll have to set it aside for now. Roswi is surprised, almost incredulous, that Leon managed to create medicine in such a simple environment. Looking at him with her usual air of superiority, she extends her hand and in an arrogant tone demands, "What did you refine? Let me see it." Leon hesitates, his grip tightening on the medicine box. Meeting her gaze, he sighs and reluctantly hands it over. "Even if I refused, you just resort to violence and take it anyway," he mutters, a trace of exasperation in his voice. Roseweiss takes the box, examining its contents. A faint smile graces her lips as she looks at the Dragon Great Force. "Impressive," she says. "You've managed to refine such a perfect Dragon Great Force under these conditions." "Truly remarkable, Leon." "What's that saying?" "The man of letters and the man of arms." Leon blinks, surprised. Internally, he marvels. She didn't mock me this time, closing the box with a click. Rosweiss hands it back to him. "You can keep this," she says firmly, "but you can't take it." Leon catches the box, confusion etched across his face. "Why not?" he asks. Rosweiss locks eyes with him, her gaze steady. "As a tonic for the dragon race, the medicine is far too potent for a human body," she explains. Her serious tone doesn't waver. "Yes, it is. As a human, you cannot withstand its effects," she reminds him, her voice softening slightly. But Lion's pride flares, pulling the dragon great force from the box. He smirks arrogantly. "I've defeated countless dragon kings without the power of a dragon," he boasts. "Why would I fear a single pill?" Rosewace's eyes widen in alarm as Leon forcefully swallows the pill. With a defiant grin, he declares, "Courage is the hymn of mankind." Leon Roswise shouts, her voice laced with concern. But the effects of the pill are immediate and devastating. A surge of power floods Leon's body, his senses heightening to dangerous levels. He clenches his chest, agony twisting his features as he collapses to his knees. "You reckless idiot!" Roswis yells, anger and worry blending in her voice. "Do you know how rarely I use healing magic?" She rushes to him, casting a spell to stabilize him. "Let me try to break down the pill's effects," she says urgently. Leon, however, shakes his head, his darkened expression filled with determination. Gritting his teeth, he grabs her hand, stopping her mid-spell. "Leon, don't move," Roswise pleads, her voice rising in alarm. But it's too late. Thunder and lightning erupt from Lion's body, engulfing him completely. Bearing the searing pain, Leon grits his teeth and manages to speak through the storm of energy. "Roswise," he growls, his voice steady despite the agony. "Look carefully." Despite her protests, Leon endures the excruciating effects of the dragon great force alone, his body crackling with raw power. The storm intensifies around him, and Roswise can only watch, stunned and helpless, as Leon endures the excruciating power alone. Shocked, she watches in awe and horror, her mind racing. Then it dawns on her. Leon is using lightning magic on his own body. Roswise stares in disbelief, trying to comprehend what Lion is doing. After what feels like an eternity, Leon finally stops channeling his lightning magic. The raging storm around him begins to subside, and the room grows eerily quiet. His eyes lose focus and unable to bear the strain any longer. Leon collapses. "Leon!" Roswis cries, rushing to his side. Her voice is filled with genuine worry as she catches him just before he hits the ground. Gently, she lowers him into a sleeping position, brushing stray strands of hair from his face. Looking at his unconscious form, Roswise mutters under her breath, "You really are a madman." Despite her exasperation, there's a softness in her voice that betrays her concern. Standing, she glances at him once more and says firmly, "Wait here. I'll get the court physician." She turns to leave but freezes mid-step as she hears a faint sound behind her. "Roswise!" Leon's hoarse voice calls out weakly. She spins around in shock. Leon's eyes flutter open, his face flushed to deep red, and a strange, dazed expression settles on his features. Just as she's about to ask him how he's feeling, he raises his hand toward her, startling her. Still holding her tail, Leon smiles, a goofy, childlike grin. Roswise stares at him, utterly baffled. "How on earth are you even awake?" she demands, her voice filled with both confusion and embarrassment. She attempts to pull away, but Leon's grip on her tail tightens. "Let go of my tail, you idiot," she demands, her voice cracking under the mix of frustration and embarrassment. Leon, however, refuses to comply. Leon happily presses his cheek to Roswise's tail, his grip firm and unyielding. Despite her earlier struggles, it becomes clear she can't overpower him in his current state. Still, she reassures herself that despite his bizarre behavior, he doesn't seem to be in any immediate danger. Leon continues his antics, unabated, cheerfully singing his wife-wife song. Roswis sighed deeply, realizing there's no reasoning with him in this state. Resigning herself to the situation, she looks down at him and says, "All right, I'm here. What's wrong? Just tell me already." Leon stops singing and looks up at her with a bright, flushed expression. His eyes shine with childlike excitement, and he boldly calls her wife again. Then, without hesitation, Leon smiles mischievously and declares, "I want a second child." Roswise's face flushes a deep red, and she stumbles over her thoughts, the shock of Lion's sudden declaration sending a chill down her spine. Struggling to keep her composure, she glares at him, her blush intensifying. "You haven't even properly taken care of the 2 children from my first pregnancy." But Leon is undeterred. Still gripping her tail like a stubborn child, he rolls around on the bed. Roswise groans, pinching the bridge of her nose in frustration. What did I do to deserve this, she wonders, weighing her options. Reluctantly, she realizes that trying to reason with him might only make the situation worse. Finally, she exhales a long sigh and mutters, "Fine, not just a second child. We'll have a third and a fourth too, if it'll shut you up." Leon's eyes light up like a child being promised candy. With a triumphant grin, he exclaims, "Really? Then you have to come back to my hometown with me." Yeah, Roswe replies, waving him off with a tired look. We'll go back once everything is settled here. Finally releasing her tail, Leon jumps to his feet and cheers, shouting, That's amazing! You're the best, Roswise. Watching him, Roswe shakes her head in disbelief, a mix of exasperation and amusement playing on her face. Leon suddenly leans in close, his grin widening as he declares, My wife is the best. Before Roswise can react, he leans forward, clearly intending to plant a kiss on her cheek. Startled, Roswe's eyes widen. With lightning reflexes, she presses a hand to his face and firmly pushes him away, no taking advantage of the situation. Internally, Roswise wrestles with her thoughts, trying to figure out how to handle the absurd situation. As Leon stubbornly continues his antics, Roswe's patience snaps, and she punches him squarely in the face, calling him an idiot. Leon lets out a small yelp, stumbling slightly from the blow. Rosweiss crosses her arms, glaring at him, but internally admits she couldn't hold back any longer. Leon clutches his chest dramatically after taking the hit, and Roswei's frustration quickly turns to panic. Rushing to his side, she kneels down and asks in a concerned tone, Are you okay, you fool? Leon's breath grows heavier as he grits his teeth, clutching his chest tightly. Wife, he groans, his voice trembling. I feel really uncomfortable. Suddenly, a bright glow emanates from the dragon mark on Roswis's chest. Her eyes widen in shock. This isn't good, she mutters, her heart racing. Without hesitation, she unbuttons Lion's shirt to examine him. As the fabric parts, the dragon mark on his chest begins to shine with an intense light. Rosweiss furrows her brow, her mind racing. Before she can think further, Leon suddenly grabs her shoulders, startling her. With unexpected strength, he pushes her onto the bed, climbing over her and pinning her hands down. Leon! Rosweiss shouts, her voice a mix of anger and alarm. You bastard! What are you doing? Leon's breath is labored, his face flushed as if burning with fever. He looks into her eyes, his expression desperate. Wife, he whispers hoarsely. I feel so hot all over. My chest, it itches. Rosaweiss's face flushes crimson at their proximity, her heart pounding as she glares at him. Gritting her teeth, she thinks furiously. The dragon pattern combined with the lightning element has heightened his instincts. It's fueling his desire to reproduce. Before she can say or do anything, Leon's gaze shifts. His eyes lock onto her tail, and with a sudden movement, he grabs it. Rosweiss freezes in shock as Leon brings the tail closer, sniffing it with a dazed expression. Determined to put an end to his antics, she pushes against his face, attempting to stop him from sniffing her tail any further. Leon, stop it, she commands firmly, her tone sharper now. He resists her efforts, his hands clinging tightly to her. As Rosweiss continues to scold him, Leon suddenly places a finger gently on her lips, silencing her mid-sentence. Caught off guard, Rosweiss freezes, her breath hitching. She stares at him in surprise, unsure of what to say or do next. Leon gazes deeply into her eyes, his expression uncharacteristically intense. Milif, he says softly, using her first name, something he rarely does. You're so beautiful tonight. The unexpected compliment catches Rosweiss completely off guard. A wave of heat rushes to her face, her cheeks turning crimson. Looking away to avoid his piercing gaze, she stammers. This man, his attitude is completely different. There's something wild and intense about him tonight, something I can't seem to reject. Despite her resistance, Rosweiss feels her resolve wavering. She steals a glance at him, only to find him still staring at her with a burning intensity. Against her better judgment, a small part of her begins to feel anticipation. At the Silver Dragon Castle the next morning, Leon slowly opens his eyes, the lingering effects of the dragon force finally subsiding. As his vision clears, he notices Roswit lying beside him in bed, her smirking expression aimed directly at him. Awake, are we? She asks with a teasing tone, her piercing gaze locked onto his. Hearing her voice so close, Leon bolts upright, his eyes wide with panic. What? Roswi! He shouts, staring at her in shock. Why are you in my bed as the sudden movement sends a wave of pain through his body? Leon winces, clutching his aching muscles. Everything hurts, he groans, then mutters. My memory is fragmented. What the hell happened last night? Roswi stretches casually before sliding out of bed. With a smirk, she turns to face him. You don't remember anything? She asks innocently, though the glint in her eyes says otherwise. Pointing to the visible bruises and marks on her arms and neck, Leon's eyes widen further as he spots the marks on her skin. Hickeys? So many? His mind races as a cold sweat breaks out on his forehead. Did I really do that? Suddenly, fragments of his memory from the previous night begin to surface. One by one, the missing pieces click into place, each recollection more vivid than the last. He grips his head as the memories come flooding back. And when the full picture finally forms, Leon lets out a horrified scream. Rosswise, still smirking, leans against the bed frame and folds her arms. So you do remember, she says, her tone dripping with amusement. You begged me last night. Leon said things like, honey, just one more time. Okay, wife, I feel so bad. Please help me, just this once and the last time. Leon's face burns with embarrassment as she mimics his pleading voice. Stop it, he shouts, covering his ears in a desperate attempt to block her teasing. Meanwhile, Leon pulls on his shirt, sneaking a sideways glance at her. Internally, he laments, all I wanted was to refine the dragon force for my health, and maybe teach her a small lesson. Looking at her briefly, he admits under his breath, maybe I went a little too far last night. Leon hesitantly asks Rosswise, did I hurt you? Rosswise shakes her head with a calm demeanor. Leon looks at her and comments, well, now you should know whether I'm in good health or not. Next time, don't go doubting my abilities. Rosswise's eyes narrow as she fixes an intense gaze on Leon. Her serious expression makes him shift uncomfortably. What? What's with that look? Leon stammers, stepping back slightly. Without a word, Rosswise closes the distance between them, her gaze unrelenting. Before Leon can react, she grabs his chin, leans in close, and in a commanding tone declares, Dragon Slayer, I must say, I'm very satisfied with your performance last night. I hope you can keep it up in the future. Leon freezes, his face burning red as her words sink in. Internally, he screams, what is happening? Have I somehow become her personal servant now? Rosswise steps back, her usual smirk returning, and changes the subject. Now about that bet, she says casually. The mention of the bet snaps Leon back to reality. A faint blush creeps onto Rosswise's cheeks as she glances away. Yes, the one where you insisted that the children should call me Mom. You said it would improve their affection for me. And well, you won. Leon raises an eyebrow, a hint of pride flickering across his face. Rosswise continues, her tone softer now. So, have you thought about the request you'd like to make? Scratching the back of his head, Leon hesitates before responding. With a rare, genuine expression, he says, actually, I have. I'd like you to send someone to the Empire to check on my master and his wife. I need to know if they're doing okay. Rosswise's playful demeanor shifts as she considers his words, her expression growing thoughtful. Silver dragons aren't exactly known for stealth. His face lights up as he enthusiastically asks, you're really okay with it? In his excitement, he almost blurts out a casual, thank you, but catches himself quickly, straightening his posture. Clearing his throat, he coughs awkwardly to compose himself before speaking in a formal tone. Later, in the garden of the Silver Dragon Castle, Leon sits on a bench, his face pale and weary. Little Moana, noticing his restless expression, approaches him with a curious look. Dad, are you sick? She asks innocently. Startled by her sudden question, Leon jumps up nervously. Waving his hands in denial, he says, what? No, of course not. Why would you say that? Moana giggles, her laughter light and sweet. Mom told me, she replies confidently. She said you took medicine yesterday. And she said, men can never admit when they're sick. Hearing her words, Leon's expression darkens. Gritting his teeth, he fumes internally. That meddling female dragon? How could she say that to a child? Do I even have any dignity left? Man tilts her head, looking at him with genuine concern. But you still don't look well, Dad. Is it because the medicine didn't work? Or maybe you didn't take enough of it. Dad, your mouth is bleeding. Clinging to him with wide, teary eyes, she pleads, Dad, I can't live without you. Please don't die. Leon, his heart melting at her words, gives her a warm smile. Patting her head gently, he reassures her. Daddy's really fine. I promise he's doing just fine. At least that's what he tells himself. He kneels down and asks, how about Daddy makes you a new toy today? The word toy immediately lights up Moana's eyes. She jumps up and down with excitement, clapping her hands. Yes, I love toys the most, Daddy. Seeing her joy, Leon can't help but smile. All right then, he says, I'll make you something special. Sitting down with determination, Leon gets to work. Using his alchemical skills and a bit of mechanical ingenuity, he carefully crafts the cube. Once it's assembled, he takes his time painting each face with bright, vibrant colors. When the paint finally dries, Leon holds up the finished cube, his face glowing with pride. "Here you go, man," he says, showing it to her. "This little toy is called a Rubik's Cube. You can twist it however you like. Want to give it a try?" Moan's eyes widen with amazement as she eagerly takes the cube into her hands. Turning it over, she examines it curiously before starting to twist the sides. Her face lights up with delight as she figures out how it works. As this thought amuses him, a sudden flash of unease passes through him. Leon's smile fades and his expression grows serious. He quickly turns, scanning his surroundings with sharp eyes. Noticing his sudden shift, Moon tilts her head curiously. "Daddy, what's wrong?" she asks, still holding the Rubik's Cube. Leon hesitates for a moment, his eyes lingering on the distance. Then shaking off the tension, he replies with a calm smile. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Just thought I saw something." Leon returns to his thoughts, his brow furrowing in contemplation. Just moments ago, he felt something, a faint but unmistakable sensation of the dragon's gaze. His instincts tell him it's coming from the direction where Noah does her physical training. He wonders if Noah, as stubborn as she is, will ever choose to join them. Deciding to extend a gesture of connection, Leon resolves to make a Rubik's Cube for Noah as well. That night, as Moana sleeps peacefully in her room, the Silver Dragon Castle is enveloped in silence. Meanwhile, Noah quietly opens the door to her own room, stepping inside with her usual composure. Her sharp eyes immediately catch sight of the Rubik's Cube and the note resting on top of it, left behind by Leon. Curious, Noah picks up the note and reads it. In Leon's familiar handwriting, it says, "This is a toy for you, Noah. Your task is to figure out how to solve it. Think of it as a little challenge." Scoffing, Noah takes the Rubik's Cube into her hands and mutters, "What an idiot. I don't have time for children's toys." Yet, despite her words, she can't resist the urge to twist the sides of the cube experimentally, her fingers moving deftly. As she continues to toy with it, a faint blush creeps onto her cheeks. Holding the cube tightly, she whispers softly, "Thank you, Dad." Unbeknownst to Noah, her younger sister, Moana, has been watching her secretly from the doorway. With her usual curiosity, Moana thinks to herself, "Sister's been acting a little strange lately, always hiding things in that box under her bed. What could it be?" When Noah steps out of the room later, Moana seizes her chance. "Detective Moana is on the case," she whispers, with a mischievous giggle. Crawling under Noah's bed, she carefully retrieves the hidden wooden box. Excitedly, Moana opens the box and examines its contents. Fragments of their father's black and gold armor, the Rubik's Cube, and a nameplate with the engraving, Noah K. Melfa, written in Leon's hand. Moana's eyes widen in surprise. "They're all connected to Dad," she says aloud, her face lighting up with understanding. So that's why Noah's been so secretive. Just as she pieces it together, a shadow falls over her. Noah strides into the room with an ominous calm, her voice low and cold. "What do you think you're doing, detective man?" Without a word, she ties Moana up, silences her with a piece of cloth over her mouth, and retrieves her precious treasure box. Meanwhile, at St. Heath Academy, an elite institution among the Dragon Clan, the standards for student admission are famously rigorous. The Academy evaluates not only individual potential, but also the family's harmony and adherence to dragon ideals. It firmly believes that whether a young dragon hatches from an egg or is born alive, only a loving and harmonious family can nurture a dragon to embody the proper virtues. As such, St. Heath Academy only accepts students from such families. To uphold the image of a perfect dragon family, the Silver Dragon Queen Roswi devises a plan, a family outing to Sky City, complete with a wholesome family photo. Sky City, a bustling hub in the dragon realm, is alive with parent dragons frolicking with their children. Amid the lively atmosphere, Roswi arrives in her magnificent dragon form, her scales gleaming like polished silver as she soars gracefully through the skies. The family follows, awestruck by her commanding presence. Finally, Moana, ever the playful one, slides gleefully down her mother's back. Leon, standing below with his arms extended, calls out, "Slow down, Moana, I'll catch you." With perfect timing, he grabs her mid-slide, holding her securely in his arms. "Gotcha," he says with a warm smile, lifting Moana effortlessly. As the scene unfolds, Noah watches silently with her signature cool demeanor, arms crossed, observing the family interaction without a word. Rosswise, having landed gracefully, shifts back into her human form. Moana, full of curiosity, looks up at her father and asks, "Daddy, why didn't you turn into a dragon just now? I really want to see you as a dragon." Leon freezes at the unexpected question. His smile stiffens as he awkwardly laughs, scratching the back of his head. Internally, he's panicking. Before he can come up with a plausible excuse, Noah fixes her sharp gaze on him and coldly asks, "So, is it that you can't transform, or you won't?" Leon feels the weight of her words and falters. Completely caught off guard, he looks back and forth between Noah and Roswi, hoping for a lifeline. The pressure mounts as both daughters await his answer. Sensing his discomfort, Roswi steps in with a composed smile and says, "Your father's body hasn't fully recovered yet, so he can't transform into a dragon for the time being." Roswi promises the children that Leon will show them when he recovers. Muan, her face full of concern, looks up at her father and says earnestly, "Daddy, you have to get better soon." Leon smiles at her, reassuringly, patting her head. "I'll do my best, Moana," he says. But inwardly, he thinks to himself, "It's impossible. Absolutely impossible." Rosewys quickly changes the subject, clapping her hands to gather their attention. "All right, everyone, let's head into town. We have things to do today." Muan burst with excitement, dashing ahead down the bustling street. "Noah, look! There are so many dragons here!" she exclaims, her voice filled with wonder. Noah, ever composed, follows at a steady pace and warns her younger sister. Meanwhile, Rosweiss and Leon walk behind them. Leon's expression darkens, and his body begins to tremble ever so slightly. He doesn't say a word, but Roswi notices immediately. Is he shaking? Roswi wonders, glancing at him from the corner of her eye. She quickly puts two and two together. It must be the first time he's seen so many dragons since waking up from his coma. Leaning closer to him with a sly smirk, she whispers, "Are you scared, Leon?" Leon, his face still dark, says nothing at first. Then with a sudden arrogant glint in his eye, he snaps, "Who's scared? Me? You must be joking." Roseweiss raises an eyebrow as Leon points dramatically at the dragon citizens around them. "I'm excited, Roseweiss. Can't you tell?" he declares, puffing out his chest. "Do you know what I see? The streets are practically paved with gold. I'm going to get rich." Then, as if oblivious to the bewildered stares, Leon whistles nonchalantly and strolls off with a self-satisfied grin. Rosweiss pinches the bridge of her nose, exhaling sharply. I worried about him for no reason. Later they arrive at a specific shop in town. As the door cracks open, the dragon shopkeepers immediately bow low, their voices filled with reverence. "Your Majesty, the Silver Dragon Queen, and her family, it is our great honor to serve you." Rosweiss enters the shop with Lion and the children following behind. Inside, Juan runs excitedly from one corner of the room to another. Grabbing Noah's hand, she tugs her sister along, pointing at the walls. Meanwhile, Leon leans closer to Rosweiss, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Aren't you the Silver Dragon Queen?" he asks in a low voice. Roswi gives him a side glance, clearly unimpressed. "The Dragon King of a tribe can only command members of their own tribe," she explains. Leon smirks, clearly enjoying himself. "So basically, your queenly status doesn't hold much weight here, huh?" Before he can blink, Roswi stomps on his foot with her sharp high heels. Leon yelps in pain, hopping on one leg as he clutches his throbbing foot. Rosweiss, with a sweet yet dangerous smile, replies, "Well, in any case, I'm taller than you now." The head shopkeeper chuckles nervously at the exchange, before stepping forward and bowing. "It's truly an honor to have the Silver Dragon Queen and her family here. Everyone says my photography skills are top-notch among the dragon tribe," she boasts. "It's your great fortune that we successfully scheduled this appointment." As they speak, the head shopkeeper glances toward Leon and asks hesitantly, "What about Her Majesty's husband's tail?" "He's not fond of showing his tail," she says with a casual shrug. "Let's pick a tailless suit for him instead." Her words trigger a memory, and she smirks as she recalls the incident earlier at the Silver Dragon Castle. Back in the shop, Rosweiss shakes her head at the memory, amused by Leon's stubbornness. The head shopkeeper, unaware of the backstory, simply nods and gestures for Rosweiss to move to another area to try on her outfits. Meanwhile, on the other side of the shop, Moon skips around with infectious excitement. "I want to wear a pretty dress," she chirps cheerfully, her enthusiasm lighting up the room. After a while, Muan and Noah emerge from the changing room in their new dresses, both looking stunning for the family photo. Shortly after, Leon steps out wearing a crisp white suit. His polished appearance is a stark contrast to his usual casual demeanor. Muan, catching sight of her father in the new outfit, gasps in delight. "Dad, you look so handsome," she exclaims, her voice filled with surprise and admiration. The head shopkeeper nods approvingly, her smile warm. "The suit fits the prince perfectly," she says. I imagine he must have been quite popular in his youth. Leon raises an eyebrow, clearly pleased by the compliment. He then turns his attention to Noah, catching her off guard. What do you think, Noah? He asks. Noah, momentarily surprised by the question, glances at him before quickly looking away. A faint blush dusts her cheeks as she mutters, You look quite handsome. Grinning brightly at her response, Leon pats both Muan and Noah on their heads affectionately. And your dresses are adorable too, he adds with a genuine warmth that makes both girls smile. Just then, Roswi steps out from the dressing room dressed in a breathtaking gown that perfectly complements her elegance. For a moment, everyone is left speechless. Leon, his jaw dropping slightly, stares at her in awe. It's undeniable. Roswi looks absolutely stunning. Roswi, noticing his dumbfounded gaze, smirks and tilts her head. What's wrong, Leon? She asks with playful curiosity. Leon quickly snaps out of his trance, looking away and scratching the back of his head awkwardly. Nothing. It's just that dress suits you, he mumbles, his voice barely audible. Hearing his unexpected compliment, Ross Weiss blushes faintly and averts her eyes. Well, she says, trying to sound nonchalant, I think it would look even better if you had a tail. Leon's expression darkens at the comment. The head shopkeeper steps in, her cheerful voice cutting through the tension. All right, everyone, let's get ready for the family photo, she says, positioning the camera. Muan, waving her little hands, calls out, Mom, Dad, come here. As Rossweiss and Leon take their places, the shopkeeper encourages them. Your Majesty, Prince Leon, step a little closer, please. Let's capture the love and harmony of this beautiful family. Rosweiss and Leon glance at each other, both stubbornly looking away, neither wanting to admit their hesitation. Leon thinks to himself, no way am I getting closer to her, while Ross likely has a similar thought. All right, everyone, smile. The shopkeeper announces, starting the countdown. Muan beams with uncontainable enthusiasm, her cheerful energy lighting up the scene. Meanwhile, Noah maintains her cool, aloof demeanor, and Leon and Rossweiss look as though they're barely tolerating the moment. With a click, the family photo is taken. For the final shot, the shopkeeper suggests something unique. Roswi and Leon, creating a love-shaped symbol. Rossweiss coils her tail into half a heart, and Leon reluctantly completes the other half with his hand. Let's revisit Leon's graduation ceremony. On the day of Leon's graduation, a crowd of his female juniors surround him. Leon, caught in the middle of the overwhelming attention, looks flustered and unsure of how to extricate himself. Finally composing himself, Leon adopts a stern expression and declares, I'm sorry, but I can't. I have to head back and nail hooves for my master's donkey. Maybe next time. His abrupt excuse leaves the girls stunned, their hopeful expressions quickly turning to disappointment. One by one they retreat, their hearts visibly breaking as they walk away. Leon sighs in relief, waving them off with a quick goodbye. His tone is cheerful, but the girls' crushed spirits linger in the air. From a distance, Leon's master watches the entire scene unfold. Now in the Sky City, after taking their photos at the shop, the head shopkeeper informs them it will take about 6 hours for the photos to be developed. During this time, she suggests Her Majesty take a leisurely stroll around the city. Without warning, Moon grabs Noah's hand and dashes through the bustling streets, her excitement bubbling over as she urges him to look over there. This feels different, he remarks. Rosswise responds with her usual calm demeanor, reminding him, this is just to maintain our family image. Then softening a little, she adds, besides, Noah has been preparing for her entrance exam so seriously. She's worked hard for nearly a month. It's good for her to relax once in a while. As the parents continue their conversation, Moon and Noah stop abruptly at a lively stall featuring a balloon shooting game. Their attention is immediately captured by a cute teddy bear among the prizes. Moon's eyes sparkle like stars, and Noah looks equally enchanted by the fluffy bear. When Leon and Roswi catch up, they pause, surprised to find the kids utterly absorbed in the game. The shopkeeper, noticing their dejected faces, offers an encouraging smile. If you try a few more times, I'm sure you'll hit it. At that moment, Leon steps forward, shaking his head with a chuckle. So they've got this kind of game here too, huh? Moon beams at him, calling out enthusiastically, Dad! While Noah, still pouting, mutters that she just can't seem to win. Leon laughs awkwardly, his instincts telling him, these games are rigged to make winning difficult. Seeing her father as the last hope, Noah shoves the toy gun into his hands with an almost commanding pout. Leon takes it, examining the toy intently as memories surface of similar games he'd seen in human markets. The shopkeeper, sensing an opportunity, turns to Leon and Rosswise with a sly smile. Would you two like to give it a try? If you manage to hit all the balloons within 10 shots, you can win the pair of teddy bears your daughters seem to have their eyes on. Leon glances down at Noah and Moon, his voice gentle as he asks, "Do you two want the teddy bears?" Noah crosses her arms and turns away, huffing indignantly. "I'm not interested," she declares, though her tone betrays her. Beside her, Moon's shoulders droop, her voice soft and wistful. Moon doesn't want them either. The girls attempts to hide their true feelings. Turning to Ross Weiss with a mischievous grin, Leon points a finger at her and confidently announces to the shopkeeper, "Give me 10 shots, she'll pay for it." The shopkeeper, laughing at the unexpected dynamic, rubs his hands together. "That's the spirit." Leon picks up the gun, his expression shifting to one of focus as he aims at the balloons. Memories of his training days at the Dragon Slayer Academy flash through his mind. "It's been a while since I've held a gun," he thinks to himself, the weight of nostalgia settling briefly on him. Leon lines up his first shot and fires. Miss, he fires again. Another miss. Shot after shot. The results are the same. He fails to hit a single balloon. The shopkeeper smirks, satisfaction blooming in his chest. He had tampered with the gun's settings, making it nearly impossible for anyone, regardless of their skill, to succeed. Sliding his left hand casually into his pocket, he takes a deep breath and aims again. This time, his movements are smooth and calculated. One by one, the balloons burst with each shot. The shopkeeper's smirk vanishes, his jaw drops, and his eyes widen in disbelief as Leon flawlessly hits all 10 targets. Spinning the gun nonchalantly in his hand, Leon shrugs and remarks with a smirk, "Guess I just needed to test the sights first. Didn't expect to hit them all after that." The shopkeeper stands frozen, his mind racing as he silently wonders how anyone could pull off such a feat. Roswi, with a soft smile, compliments Leon, saying, "Not bad." Moon, her cheeks slightly flushed with admiration, clutches her teddy bear and exclaims cheerfully, "Dad is amazing." Noah, also blushing faintly in surprise, chimes in, "Dad is so sharp." Pretending to be impressed, the shopkeeper reluctantly hands over the pair of teddy bears, his smile forced as he exclaims, "That's awesome." While handing over the prizes, he mutters internally, "Just take them and leave already." Then turning to his daughters, he kneels and hands one bear to Moon and the other to Noah, saying with a gentle tone, "These are for you." Moon, overjoyed, hugs her teddy bear tightly and beams up at him. "Thank you, Dad," she says, her voice brimming with happiness. Ross Weiss watches the scene unfold from the side, a hint of surprise in her expression. The rare harmony and affection in the moment catch her off guard. As she observes Leon, a thought crosses her mind. Although this guy is usually a little off-key, every time he gets serious, he has a special charm. Leon, noticing Ross Weiss lost in thought, keeps his gaze on her. Something in her expression stirs a decision in his mind. Roswi, sensing his eyes on her, glances at him and wonders why he's staring. Later, after some time, Ross Weiss and the family continue strolling through the bustling streets. As they walk, a little dragon girl points her finger toward Ross Weiss and tugs at her mother's sleeve, saying, "I want that too." The little dragon girl's mother, startled by the comment, looks at Ross Weiss with a hint of surprise, but says nothing, choosing to remain silent. Meanwhile, Leon recalls a plan he had been mulling over. He had decided earlier to get his big baby girl a teddy bear as well. True to his thoughts, Leon manages to procure a large teddy bear and hands it to Roswi. Roswi, now holding the oversized teddy bear, walks alongside the family in silence, her expression calm and unreadable. She doesn't react to the little dragon girl's remark. After all, the girl was speaking to her mother, not Ross Weiss. Leon, walking with his hands folded behind his head, chuckles and breaks the silence. "Did you notice the miserable expression on that unscrupulous businessman's face at the end?" he asks. Ross Weiss, her voice cool and detached, responds, "If it had been me, I'd have simply advised you not to waste your time on such a childish game." Leon glances at her, grinning. "Come on," he says. "We're out here together, and it's good that we're having some fun." Turning his gaze toward her, he tilts his head slightly and asks, "Unless you didn't enjoy it." Roswi, with a straight face, replies curtly, "I didn't say that." Ross Weiss, holding on to the large teddy bear, blushes faintly as a thought crosses her mind. Bears are just unpalatable food, not even good enough to fill one's stomach. But when they're made into toys, they're surprisingly cute. Without waiting for Lion's response, she quickly strides past him, her cheeks still flushed. With a playful pout, she tosses over her shoulder, "Come find me after dinner tonight." Leon freezes mid-step, her words catching him off guard. He stares after her, wide-eyed as a wave of surprise washes over him. Leon recalls Ross Weiss's cryptic invitation as he walks down a dimly lit corridor after dinner. Her words replay in his mind. Come find me after dinner. It's late at night and I'm heading to her room alone. Leon mutters to himself, a mix of anticipation and apprehension tightening his chest. If I go, I'll feel awkward the entire night. If I don't go, I'll be restless for a week. Clenching his fists in frustration, Leon makes up his mind. Fine, I'll go see her. Whatever happens, happens. He storms down the hall, his footsteps echoing in determination. When Leon reaches Roswis's door, he stops and takes a deep breath, readying himself to knock. But before his knuckles meet the wood, he notices the door is slightly ajar. Curious, he pushes it open and steps inside, his gaze sweeping across the room in search of her. The sound of running water reaches his ears, and realization dawns on him. She's still in the shower. Leon's eyes wander toward the bathroom where the faint outline of Ross Weiss is visible through the glass shower door. He frowns, noting the transparency. What kind of poor quality glass is this, he thinks, averting his gaze in embarrassment. As the moments tick by, Leon's mind races, shocked and uneasy. He begins to wonder, do I really have to deal with this tonight? Snapping back to reality. Leon shakes his head, trying to steady his thoughts. Rosswise, now in her pajamas and still under the lingering mist of hot water, looks stunning. Her long silver hair clings to her damp skin, and droplets of water glisten faintly on her face and body. Leon's heart skips a beat at the sight. It's only natural anyone would be captivated by such beauty. With a flicker of nervousness on his face, he thinks to himself, am I about to be squeezed dry again? 6 hours later, the photos are finally ready. Moon and Noah eagerly look through the pictures of their parents, Leon and Roswi. Moon, her eyes sparkling with excitement, exclaims, Mom and Dad look like such a perfect match. Leon turns the photo around, revealing a handwritten note from the head shopkeeper. Together, he and Ross Weitz read the words aloud. May the silver light always shine in the eyes of the one they love. Their faces flush instantly, bright red with embarrassment. Both speak at once in protest. Who's in love with whom? Still flustered, Ross Weiss hides her face for a moment before adding in a small, indignant voice, there must be some mistake. Fix this photo for me. Leon, nodding, quickly agrees. Yeah, it must have been written wrong. Seeing Ross like this, Leon's heart skips a beat. It's impossible to blame him. Anyone would be struck by such beauty. He swallows hard, his mind racing. With a flicker of nervousness, he thinks to himself, am I about to be squeezed dry again? Roswi steps out of the shower room and without missing a beat asks, where would you like to do it? The living room or the balcony? Leon freezes, her words catching him completely off guard. Stammering slightly, he nervously replies, the balcony? That's not good, right? I mean, people might see us. That would be embarrassing. Rossways, casually glancing into the mirror and adjusting her damp hair, responds with an air of indifference. The living room is fine then. It makes no difference to me. Leon exhales deeply, feeling trapped by the situation. Finally, with a dramatic sigh, he clenches his fists and yells, fine, come on, do it. He lies back on the sofa, his teeth gritted and eyes tightly shut, bracing himself for whatever's about to happen. Rosswise, noticing his odd behavior, raises an eyebrow. What are you doing? She asks, her voice laced with amusement. Leon cracks one eye open, his face flushed. Aren't you going to, do it? He blurts out. Ross Weiss, now sitting on the opposite sofa with her legs elegantly crossed, lets a sly smile creep onto her face. Mr. Casanova seems quite eager, she teases. Then with a calm but playful tone, she adds, but tonight isn't suitable. Let's do it another day. Roswi places a paper on the table that she had been holding earlier. Leon, quickly sitting up on the sofa and coughing awkwardly, asks, what's this? Rosswise adjusts her posture and explains, these are test questions from St. Heath Academy used to evaluate Vivipar's families in the past. The questions focus on the partner's living habits, personalities, and shared experiences. She sets down more papers and continues. We need to get these answers right in advance. If we can't respond properly later, it could affect Noah's admission evaluation. Leon picks up the paper, skimming through the questions. With a skeptical look, he comments, these are like questions from one of those cheesy couples' tacit understanding games. Looking up from the paper, he calls out, all right then. Rosswise, what's your favorite color? Black, she replies with a calm expression, then asks, what about you? Silver, Leon answers without hesitation. Their eyes lock for a moment, an unspoken realization hanging between them. The intensity of their gaze grows, and suddenly both of them become self-conscious. Their faces flush red as they quickly turn away, awkwardly brushing off the moment. It's just a coincidence, Roswi mutters, glancing to the side. Yeah, just a coincidence, Leon agrees. Snapping back to the task at hand, Rosswise clears her throat. In any case, we need to test how well we know each other. Fine by me, Leon replies, grabbing a pen. The two begin filling in the answers, their focus shifting entirely to the task. A short while later, Leon leans back and declares, I'm done. Rosvis finishes moments after and nods. Let's check the scores. They swap papers to review each other's answers. When the tally's complete, Roswi scores 45 points, while Leon scores 58. Leon smirks, leaning back smugly. Looks like I scored higher than you. Seems like I know the queen better than she knows me. Glancing at her score, she feels a mix of frustration and surprise. I didn't expect him to notice even my small habits, she thinks. The way I sit, or how I position my tail to feel most comfortable. He must be more observant than I thought. One question catches her attention. Has your partner ever been particularly disappointed with you about something? Leon had marked yes. However, Rosweiss herself answered, no. Folding her arms and closing her eyes briefly, Roswi reflects, I've always kept things to myself, never sharing openly with others. It's no wonder he guessed wrong. Her gaze shifts back to Leon, who is completely engrossed in reviewing the question paper, his brows furrowed in concentration. Watching him, a soft thought crosses her mind. Maybe if it's him. Leon suddenly notices her staring. Her eyes haven't left him, their gaze steady, intense, and somehow adorable. For a moment he wonders, is she mad about the score? The thought makes him chuckle inwardly. He teases lightly, placing a hand on her shoulder. Ross' wife blinks, startled, as if snapped out of a trance. Her eyes dart to his hand, then back to his face. His words are light-hearted, but the sincerity in his voice catches her off guard. Rosswise feels her heart skip a beat, then begin pounding so hard she's certain it's audible. She clutches the question paper, trying to steady herself as an unfamiliar warmth spreads through her chest. What's wrong with me? She wonders, her face flushing as she struggles to meet his eyes. Embarrassed, she quickly slams the question paper into Lion's face, and blushing fiercely, demands that he stop talking nonsense and write down his correct answers. Leon, still staring at her, asks with a teasing smile if she really got this question wrong. He points out that she had previously said she'd never been disappointed in him. Roswi, flustered, denies it, but then adds, if I must point out something, it would be the lack of dragon great forces last time. Leon smirks and teases from now on, I'll make dragon great force pills. My meals don't regret it later, with a sly smile. Roswi replies, I'm looking forward to it. The scene shifts to the night before the entrance exam. Leon reviews the question paper and nods in satisfaction. After a week of hard work, our average score on the test questions is over 80. Leon, getting up to leave, says, if there's nothing else, I'll head back first. Still, Ross' wife remains silent. As Leon reaches the door, she suddenly grabs his shirt sleeve, stopping him. Wait, she says softly, her tone catching his attention. Leon turns with a questioning look, and Roswi points toward the shower room. There's a bathtub in my bathroom. Go take a bath and then come back. Leon, stunned, blinks in surprise. What do you mean by telling me to take a shower in your room? Rosswise, without hesitation, starts pushing him toward the shower room. Just go and wash when I tell you to. Hurry up. Rosswise, Leon protests, calling her name as she continues to push him, but she doesn't listen. After pushing Leon into the shower room, Rosswise quickly closes the door. Leon, looking toward the door and taking off his shirt, wonders why she wants him to take a shower in her bathroom for no reason. Leon, sighing, reasons that she's probably just been very nervous these days because of the entrance exam, so it should be fine. Deciding to stop worrying, Leon steps into the bathtub and resolves to enjoy it regardless of the reason. Immersed in the hot water, Leon relaxes and says to himself that it feels so good. As Leon is enjoying the bath, Roswi slowly opens the bathroom door wrapped in a towel. Noticing her, Leon is taken aback and loudly calls out Roswi's name. Roswi, with a smirking smile, looks at him, flicking her hair behind her ear, and the dragon mark on her chest activating, starts to glow. Looking at Leon, Roswi says that she has been feeling a lot of pressure these days and that she wants to do it now. The dragon mark on Roswis's chest now resonates with the dragon mark on his chest. Leon, alarmed, stands up and loudly asks why. If she's under pressure, she's putting pressure on him. Roswi, smiling and winking at him, says that by transferring the pressure to him, she can feel relieved, and asks if she isn't right. Roswis removes the towel wrapped around her, and standing in front of him, naked, asks if he didn't come here with this mentality a few days ago. Leon, unable to deny the truth, looks away and thinks in silence, realizing he can't refuse her. Roswise then steps into the bathtub nakedly with Lion, leaning on his chest and looking into his eyes. She tells Lion that he can't run away and urges him to just surrender. Leon doesn't resist and complies with her. We all know what's about to unfold. On the day of the admission test at St. Heath Academy, Leon and Roswise arrive with Noah. Leon looks around in awe, remarking that this is St. Heath Academy. He turns to Roswise, who remains silent, her face serious. Concerned, Leon leans closer and asks her what's wrong, mentioning that he'd just done the decompression last night. But the effect wore off quickly. Roswise's face flushes with embarrassment, and she hits his back, muttering for him to go to hell under her breath. Leon laughs and tells her to let go. Together they enter the academy. During registration, they submit Noah's details. The receptionist reads aloud, Noah K. Melvey, Silver Dragon Clan, age 1 year and 3 months. Seeing the receptionist's skeptical expression, Leon asks if there's a problem. The receptionist replies, there's no issue, just a little surprise. She explains that while the academy's minimum age for young dragons to enroll is 1 year, most of the young dragons are around 4 to 6 years old. Then with a slight smirk, she asks if Noah is the princess, suggesting she might be a bit too young. Roswise, her face serious, responds that Noah is very smart and that her age is no issue. They respect her decision. The receptionist nods and tells them to proceed. She informs them that a special staff member will escort Noah to the written test, while the accompanying parents will need to go to the 4th floor for a home assessment. On the 4th floor in the meeting room, Leon and Roswise sit with the academy staff. Roswy, holding Lion's hand and leaning close with a smile, whispers and asks based on his experience if he thinks the 3 people there are easy to deal with. Leon, looking at them with a straight, uninterested face, whispers back that they look easy to kill. He reflects that the person he was before being captured by her would have easily taken their heads in 50 rounds. Leon, his face twisted in anger and radiating killing intent, grits his teeth and tightens his fist, whispering to Roswy that if they dare prevent Noah from attending the academy, he will meet them with a sword. One of them, an older man, introduces himself as Walter Wilson, the vice principal of St. Heath Academy, and explains that he will be responsible for their assessment today. With a calm demeanor, the vice principal reassures them not to be nervous, urging them to simply relax and answer their questions. Roswise, forcing a polite smile, nods in agreement. The vice principal then asks if they remember when their wedding anniversary is. Roswy and Leon exchange a glance, realizing that this question was anticipated. Back in the Silver Dragon Castle bedroom, Roswise had once told Leon that if anyone ever asked about their wedding anniversary, they needed to have a prepared response. After all, they hadn't officially married yet, and she had become pregnant before they could tie the knot. Roswy, understanding his train of thought, completes his statement by saying it was the year 1733 of the creation calendar. Back in the interview, both Roswise and Leon confidently state that it was May 25th. Leon, however, silently reflects that this was the day he and Roswy had bonded in the dungeon. The vice principal, glancing at the submitted papers with a hint of suspicion, remarks that their child is already over 1 year old despite being married for less than 2 years. He notes that this progress seems much faster than that of ordinary families. Shifting his focus, the vice principal asks if in the 2 years of marriage, they've discovered any shortcomings or bad habits in their partner. Leon answers yes, while Roswise responds no. Internally, both of them think that their answers should be a mix of truth and fiction, just enough to seem believable. When asked to elaborate, Leon begins to act, putting on a sad face, with an Oscar-worthy performance. He claims that sometimes he feels like he doesn't exist. Then blushing and dramatically placing his hand on his chest, he says his wife is so capable, managing family affairs and housework with exceptional order, making him feel insignificant. Blushing now, Leon looks at Roswis and gently takes her hands. Roswise, playing along with his act and blushing as well, looks into his eyes. With a soft voice, Leon tells her that she easily accumulates stress, so he wants to take this opportunity to tell her something important. He says he wants to do more for their family and asks her to rely on him. An older woman suddenly interjects, commenting on how considerate and good a husband he is. She then turns to Roswy and asks what she thinks is the most attractive thing about her husband. Surprised, Roswy looks at the older woman for a moment before responding. With a flushed face, Roswy says that her husband is handsome, has a great figure, is focused, serious, smart, responsible, likes children, and never loses his temper. She adds that he's not greasy, which makes him even more attractive. Rosswise further explains that, although her health hasn't been as good as it was before marriage, it's not a major issue because her husband is skilled at making medicine. Leon, hearing her words, forces a smile but laughs awkwardly internally. Suddenly, Rosswise, still holding Lion's hands, looks into his eyes with a concerned expression. Leon, caught off guard, awkwardly glances back at her, unsure of how to respond. Rosswise then says that she would also like to take this opportunity to tell her husband not to push himself too much. As she speaks, she tightens her grip on Lion's hand, applying enough pressure that he screams internally in pain. The three old geysers, completely fooled by their act, internally think what a loving couple they make. Later, the three assessors ask Ross, Weiss, and Leon a series of questions, and the couple answers each one with poise and grace, leaving a strong impression. As the interview nears its conclusion, the old man asks if they have any questions for the other party. He explains that this is an additional question, and the person being asked must answer truthfully. Rosswise, shaking her head with a light smile, says she has no questions for her husband because she already knows everything about him. The old man then turns to Leon and asks if he has a question for Rosswise. Leon, appearing deep in thought, pauses for a moment. Leon, suddenly looking at Rosswise, asks if she likes the teddy bear he gave her. Rosswise, hearing his words, is taken aback, her face flushing red. Internally, she thinks it's surprising that he would ask such a question, one completely unrelated to identity, position, or grudges. She finds that his thoughts always manage to surprise her. Flicking her hair behind her ear, still blushing slightly, she says that she likes it very much. Leon, hearing her response, smiles with satisfaction, saying that he understands and is fine with her answer. The vice principal, shaking hands with Leon, announces that the interview is now over. He informs them that the results of the assessment will be sent to Silver Dragon Castle via dragon letter in a few days, and thanks them once again for their cooperation. With the interview and Noah's test completed, they return to Silver Dragon Castle. A few days later, a little red dragon arrives with news from the academy. Moon, seeing the dragon enthusiastically calling out to Noah, exclaims that the dragon letter has arrived. Leon picks up the letter from the dragon and opens it, saying, "Let's have a look." As he opens the letter, it reads, "Dear Noah K. Melvey, congratulations on passing the Academy's assessment. Please come to the Academy in 3 days to register and attend the entrance ceremony." The four of them, reading the letter, express their surprise and joy at Noah's acceptance. Moon, hugging Noah and rubbing her cheek against hers, says, "You're amazing, sis. And your parents are amazing, too." Noah, looking at the admission letter, smiles for the first time in the entire manner. Rosswise, glancing at Leon, thanks him. Leon, feeling proud, asks, "Why is she thanking me? It's mainly up to Noah herself. She's truly worthy of being my daughter." Rosswise, winking as she leaves, says she'll make a big meal to celebrate today, and Leon can come help so people won't say he doesn't exist in this family. Leon, smirking, agrees, saying, "I find you very petty, always holding a grudge." Now St. Heath Academy's entrance ceremony was in full swing. The vice principal stood on the stage congratulating everyone for passing the assessments and welcoming them to this prestigious event. He spoke at length about the significance of the ceremony, emphasizing the importance of the families who had qualified to enroll their children in the academy. He highlighted that many new students had shown exceptional academic performance and stated that such excellence could only be cultivated by harmonious families. Taking this opportunity, he invited some of these families to share their experiences with everyone. The vice principal then welcomed one of the top-ranked students in this freshman class, Noah K. Melvey, and her family to the stage. Upon hearing this, Mon realized that her parents and sister were being called to the stage. The Silver Dragon maid, Anna, affirmed this observation with a quiet nod. Leon, Rosswise, and Noah ascended the stage together, accompanied by applause from the audience and welcoming gestures from the staff. Leon, wearing an awkward smile, couldn't help but think, how did it come to this? The answer lay an hour earlier, just before the ceremony. Now standing on the stage with a forced smile, Leon felt there was no way out. The speech had come as a surprise, leaving him no choice but to face the situation head-on. Noah stepped forward to the microphone. The vice principal praised her as the youngest candidate to achieve the highest score and asked her to share her experiences with the audience. All eyes turned toward her in anticipation. Noah stood confidently on the stage, addressing the audience with a composed demeanor. She began by expressing her admiration for her mother, describing her as a powerful dragon who had always been her role model. Noah continued, shifting her attention to her sister Muan. She shared how her sister had always been there for her, a constant source of encouragement and love. Muan, listening from the audience, looked at Noah with enthusiastic and hopeful eyes. deeply touched by her sister's gratitude. After a brief pause, Noah let out a small sigh. On stage, Leon's thoughts wandered as he wondered whether she would mention him. Then Noah continued, her voice softening as she approached the topic closest to her heart. She declared that the person she wanted to thank the most was her father. It was his dedication and effort that enabled her to stand where she was today. Hearing these heartfelt words, Leon was overwhelmed with emotion. Tears of joy welled up in his eyes as he softly called out Noah's name. Touched beyond words, Noah concluded her speech with a polite thanks to the audience before stepping back from the microphone. The vice principal, visibly moved by her words, remarked that Leon must truly be an exceptional father for his daughter to hold him in such high regard. Seizing the moment, he suggested that Leon give Noah a kiss to show his fatherly love. The suggestion left Leon momentarily stunned. His thoughts raced as he looked at the vice principal, wondering what could possibly have prompted such an idea. A sense of dread crept in as he considered the potential chaos that could unfold if he followed through. His gaze shifted to Noah, recalling how just a month ago, she hadn't even allowed him to touch her without complaint. The idea of her permitting a public kiss seemed far-fetched. Leaning slightly toward her, he whispered that they could settle for a simple hug instead. Noah, however, looked away, a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks. Her voice was barely audible, but firm, as she told him to hurry up, finish the kiss, and put an end to the socially excruciating ordeal. Leon stared at her, stunned by her sudden change of tone. Her unexpected compliance left him at a loss for words, and he found himself softly uttering her name in disbelief as the moment unfolded. Hearing Noah's words, Leon decided to act with heartfelt resolve. Gently, he leaned forward and planted a fatherly kiss on her forehead. The gesture was simple yet profound, reflecting his deep affection and pride for his daughter. Muan, watching from the audience, couldn't contain her excitement. She jumped eagerly, declaring her desire to kiss her sister as well. However, Anna, ever vigilant, intervened, reminding Muan that as a royal she couldn't disrupt the ceremony by rushing onto the stage. Meanwhile, Ross Weiss exhaled in relief, thankful that the spotlight hadn't turned to her. Noah's face turned a deep shade of red at the unexpected display of affection. Leon noticed her reaction and offered her a soft smile, his expression radiating warmth. The vice principal, visibly moved by the scene, remarked on the strength of their family bond. He noted that truly excellent dragons never forget to show gratitude to their loved ones. The Milky family, he added, exemplified what a real family should be like. The vice principal, with an air of cheerful oblivion, dropped an unexpected remark, revealing that he had kissed his own daughter in similar moments of pride. Then, as though inspired by his own example, he turned to Leon and suggested that as a model of a loving couple, Leon should not forget his wife. Leon and Roswis were both taken back, their expressions frozen in shock. Leon's teeth clenched and his fist tightened as he stared at the vice principal, his anger barely contained. I should have dealt with him during the assessment. Yet as his gaze shifted to Noah, his resolve softened. This is her moment, her most important entrance ceremony. No matter how infuriating the situation, I won't let it overshadow her achievement. Steeling himself, Leon addressed Roswi with an air of mock enthusiasm. My dear wife, he said, his voice deliberately loud enough for all to hear. Come now, aren't we the happiest and most harmonious family? Surely we must show everyone that we are. Roswise, caught off guard by his sudden declaration, flushed deeply. Her usual composure faltered as she glanced at him, her embarrassment unmistakable. The audience watched with amusement, the tension on stage blending into an unexpected display of familial affection. With a deep blush coloring her face, Roswi muttered that the whole situation was unbearably embarrassing. Leon, determined to move forward, closed the distance between them, gently wrapping his arms around her. His movements were slow and deliberate as he leaned in. Roswise, her heart racing, could only wonder why Leon appeared so calm, as though the weight of the moment didn't affect him at all. She told herself not to mind it, and accepting her fate, closed her eyes, bracing for the kiss she expected on her lips. But as she waited, Leon's lips never found hers. Instead, he kissed her gently on the cheek. Rosway's eyes opened in confusion, her expression a mixture of surprise and curiosity. She touched her cheek, still warm from the kiss, unable to hide the blush spreading across her face. Leon, with a respectful bow to the audience, declared that this was all he could do for them. A voice from the crowd asked why he hadn't kissed her on the lips, and others quickly chimed in, chanting for one more kiss. As the whispers filled the air, Leon leaned toward Roswi, his smirk evident as he whispered to her. His voice was low but teasing, stating that the kiss had been a good way to relieve some stress. Roswi, her anger rising, gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. She glared at him, her mind seething with frustration. How dare he use me to relieve his stress? She almost wished they weren't in front of so many people where she could have pinned him to the ground and exacted her revenge in private. The vice principal, grateful for the laughter and joy the Milky family had brought to the ceremony, thanked them warmly. He then invited Leon's family to step down from the stage to take a rest. As they exited the academy grounds, Roswise turned to Noah, her voice soft but firm. She told her that they were ready to leave and would pick her up the following weekend. She reminded her daughter to take care of herself. Noah nodded in response, assuring her mother that she would. Man, hugging Noah tightly, whispered that she wanted to be with her sister. Noah, smiling gently, told her that she would miss her too. Leon, ever the practical one, added his own reminders. He told Noah to eat on time, not to be picky with her food, to study hard, and if anything confused her, she could always ask him when she came home during the holidays. Leon grinned and pointed his thumb toward Ruswi, teasing, "Those are actually your mother's words when she was drunk. She was too embarrassed to say them herself, so I'm just doing it for her." Roswi, folding her arms and wearing a straight face, denied it, calling Leon's statement nonsense. Leon, not missing a beat, turned serious. He warned Noah that if she met classmates with bad personalities, she should stay away from them. But if anyone dared to bully her, she had his full support to fight back. Noah raised an eyebrow and asked if he had ever done that when he was in school. With a playful wink, Leon nodded. He shared that every time he got into a fight at school, his teacher, who by the way was her grandfather, would bring him home and give him a good beating. Leon reassured Noah that there was no need to worry. He would never punish her for something so small. Muan, clinging to her father's legs, listened intently to the exchange between them. Now, within the study room of the Silver Dragon Castle, Roswi sat in quiet contemplation, her attention focused on an ancient tome. The book detailed a forbidden magic known as the Blood Curse, a spell that could only be cast once in a lifetime. It demanded blood as its medium and exacted the caster's life as payment for its devastating power. As Roseweiss read, a smirk played on her lips. The concept intrigued her, and she mused that with refinement, it might become a fascinating tool for her own purposes. The silence of the room was disrupted by the subtle movement of a shadow slipping inside. Without looking up, Roswi acknowledged the presence and inquired about the person's return. The figure was Shirley, her trusted maid and a member of the Silver Dragon clan. Shirley confirmed her arrival and approached with a report. Roseweiss inquired about the progress of the investigation, and Shirley regretfully admitted that there had been no success. Tiger Lawrence and his wife had vanished without a trace within the empire. Their disappearance was marked by a meticulous eraser of information, leaving her subordinates unable to uncover any leads. This revelation drew Rosweiss's attention. She questioned what Shirley meant by missing, and Shirley elaborated that all traces of the couple had been wiped clean, suggesting the work of someone highly skilled. Reflecting on Leon's earlier description of his master as a simple old farmer, Roseweiss recognized the inconsistency. She concluded that there was far more to this man than met the eye. Before dismissing her maid, she instructed Shirley to prioritize her safety while continuing the investigation and to notify her immediately of any developments. Shirley acknowledged the command with unwavering loyalty. The scene shifts to the Silver Dragon Castle Garden, where Leon is seen swinging a branch with all his strength, channeling his full power into each motion. After demonstrating, he turns his attention to Muan and instructs her to come over and swing the stick down hard, just as he had done. Man, filled with enthusiasm, eagerly agrees to her father's request. She grabs the stick and begins swinging it aimlessly, her movements lacking coordination or focus. Leon watches her for a moment, uncertain how to respond to her wild efforts. Deciding to intervene, he steps forward and begins teaching Muan the proper way to hold the stick. He carefully adjusts her grip, demonstrates how to swing correctly, and even guides her into the right posture. As Leon continues his lesson, Roswi appears in the garden. Upon seeing her, Muan's expression brightens, and she cheerfully acknowledges her mother's presence. Leon, noticing Rosweiss as well, remarks on her return from her rounds. Roswi does not respond with words, instead offering only a smirking smile as her gaze meets lines. Muan runs to Roswi and clings to her, wrapping her arms around her mother in a tight hug. Rosweiss gently pats her daughter's head and asks if she had listened to her father today. Muan eagerly confirms that she has been obedient, proudly stating that her father even taught her how to hold a sword. Rosweiss responds with a warm, affectionate smile and acknowledges that it isn't bad. She then informs Man that dinner will be ready soon, mentioning that she had requested the chef to prepare steak. She instructs Man to go and change her clothes before dinner. The mention of steak causes Moana's eyes to sparkle with excitement. She exclaims her love for steak and skips away joyfully, singing a song about steak. As she leaves, Anna, who had been nearby, follows her little highness and guides her toward the castle. Leon and Roswy stand together, watching Moon until she disappears from view. As the moment passes, Roswy turns to Leon, about to speak. But before she can say anything, Leon swings the wooden stick at her with sudden speed. The motion takes Roswy completely by surprise. She's caught off guard, freezing as the stick comes to an abrupt halt just near her throat. Roswy, with a cold expression and a smirking smile, questions Leon's intentions, asking if he has finally decided to attack her. She states that in the Silver Dragon Castle, pointing a weapon at her is an act of treason punishable by death. Leon, hearing her words, calmly responds, pointing out that it is merely a branch and questioning if the queen truly considers a branch a weapon. Roswy, unfazed, reminds him of his past as the strongest dragon slayer, emphasizing that even a branch in his hands could be used as a lethal weapon. She ends her statement by asking if she is wrong in her assumption. To her pointed remarks, Leon doesn't respond directly. Instead, he sighs and withdraws the branch. Leaning closer to Roswy, he remarks that if she wanted to praise someone, she should do so properly, and questions why she chooses to be so sarcastic. Roswy, folding her arms, retorts that she hasn't praised him at all. Leon walks toward a nearby bench, placing his hands behind his head as he moves. He mentions that he wanted to scare her, but admits it would be pointless if she wasn't afraid. Roswy, watching him, calmly counters, stating that she doesn't believe he could harm her with a twig in his current state. Shifting the conversation, Roswy mentions that Noah had written to her the previous day, saying she was doing fine and asking them not to worry. As Roswy and Lion sit on the bench, Leon looks at her in surprise and asks if that was all Noah had written. Roswy denies this, explaining that it was rare for Noah to take the initiative to write back, but she had done so to reassure them of her safety. Leon agrees, commenting that in this regard, Noah is very similar to Roswy. Looking at the sky, Leon reflects on Noah's nature. He mentions that she always maintains a stern demeanor, making it difficult to discern her thoughts. However, he adds that if one finds the right approach, it is still very pleasant to get along with her. Turning her gaze to Leon with a faint smile, Roswy continues, saying that in Noah's eyes, he has become a top student, someone to look up to. She even mentioned that she plans to win many first places at the academy because she never wants to lose to him. Leon, slightly embarrassed, responds with an awkward smile, commenting that he thought Noah considered him just a weak nerd. Roswy, removing her heels, shifts the conversation and brings up the time when Leon first woke up. She recalls how Noah avoided him and asks if she was right about that. Roswy, now looking upward, recalls their childhood. She shares how as little ones, Noah and Moana would cry inconsolably, but the moment they were placed next to Leon, they would instantly calm down. She reflects that perhaps, even before anyone realized it, the bond of blood had already tied them together. Leon lowers his gaze, looking at his hands with a tinge of sadness in his expression. Quietly, he murmurs about the strangeness of blood relationships. His thoughts drift to his past. He remembers his childhood as an orphan, a time when he never experienced the love of parents. Family affection was an unknown concept to him. It wasn't until he was 5 years old that his master and his wife adopted him. Though they weren't connected by blood, they treated him as their own son, introducing him to the concept of home for the first time. Yet even amidst this warmth, he occasionally felt a sense of loss, a quiet void lingering in his heart. Leon, sitting in silence, reflects on his past with a sad expression, longing for a time when his master and his wife had been his real parents. His mother, sensing his sorrow, gently patted his head and reassured him, telling him that one day he would become a father to someone else. Leon, uncertain and with a hint of doubt, asked if he would truly become a father. His mother smiled warmly and confirmed, saying that his future children would be his blood, the family he would love, protect, and give everything for. Pulled back to the present, Leon clenched his fist, the words his mother had spoken echoing in his mind. He affirmed to himself that they were indeed his most cherished family members. Now, as Leon pondered, Roswy watched him closely and asked what he was daydreaming about. She then suggested they should head back. Leon snapped out of his thoughts, quickly stood, and nervously reassured her that it was nothing. Thanking her for her words, he invited her to return together. Instead of slipping her heels back on, Roswis suddenly slid toward Leon. Noticing her movement, Leon asked in confusion what she was doing now. With a smirking smile, Rosway replied that since Lion wanted to thank her, he should help her put on her shoes. Leon, staring at her with a long, resigned expression, hesitated, clearly unsure, but also a little exasperated. Their bond seemed to grow stronger and stronger with each interaction. Rosswise, still smirking, repeated that if Leon truly wanted to thank her, he should help her put on her shoes. Leon, shocked and taken aback, repeated her request in disbelief, asking if she seriously expected him to help her put on her shoes. Pointing his finger at her angrily, he reminded her that washing her feet last time had been humiliating enough. And now she wanted him to do even more. He questioned whether he had any dignity left. In response, Rossweiss kicked him in the face with her foot, silencing his complaints. She coldly reminded him that she still hadn't settled the score with him for kissing her at the entrance ceremony, and now he couldn't even help her put on her shoes. She stared at him with an arrogant expression, commanding him to stop talking nonsense and finish the task so they could leave. Leon, grumbling under his breath, finally agreed. He crouched down and placed her shoes on her feet. As he did so, Roswi smirked, commenting that despite his earlier reluctance, his movements were surprisingly quick. Leon retorted that it was true. Putting shoes on her was far easier than putting shoes on a donkey. The moment the words left his mouth, Roswi's expression darkened. She gritted her teeth in anger and glared at him. Without hesitation, she attempted to kick his head again. This time, however, Leon anticipated her move. Smiling, he bent backward, swiftly dodging her kick as her leg flew past his face. He immediately stood up and darted off, mocking her as he ran. He shouted back that as long as he ran fast enough, she wouldn't be able to catch him. A few days later, Leon, Roswi, and Muon waited outside. Rosweiss and Leon noticed something and turned their gaze to the sky. Muon, filled with excitement, pointed upward and signaled for them to come closer. A massive dragon flew over them with great speed. Its immense size caught Lion's attention, and he observed it in surprise, noting that it was several times larger than Rosweiss's transformed form. The dragon approaching them was the Leviathan, a giant dragon renowned for its size and endurance. Roswi, watching the Leviathan, remarked that despite its massive size, it was not particularly powerful. Its exceptional endurance and stable emotions made it an ideal transporter for the Dragon Clan. Leon then asked what she meant by emotionally stable. Roswise explained that a Leviathan, due to its calm temperament, would never lose its temper, even once throughout its thousands of years of life. For this reason, the Academy often employed them to transport baby dragons. As they continued observing, the Leviathan released Noah onto the ground. She landed gracefully and turned to Roswise to announce her return. Roswise welcomed Noah warmly, her gaze softening at the sight of her daughter. Muon quickly rushed to Noah and hugged her tightly, expressing how much she had missed her. Noah, with a slight blush on her face, looked at Lion and tried to speak to him, but her words faltered, breaking mid-sentence. Leon noticed her hesitation and thought to himself that she still wasn't accustomed to calling him Dad. Leon and Roswise, holding their daughter's hands, walked inside together. On the way, Leon expressed his happiness at Noah's return, mentioning that he and her mother had prepared many of her favorite dishes to celebrate her homecoming. After heading inside the Silver Dragon Castle, Noah presented her test papers to Leon and Roswi. She began listing her achievements one by one. As she detailed her results, Roswi smiled proudly while looking over the papers, her admiration evident. Beside her, Muon observed with bright, curious eyes, captivated by her sister's accomplishments. However, when Noah hesitated slightly, her voice grew softer as she mentioned the last subject. For all-round physical fitness, she had only scored 95 points and didn't get first place. She apologized for the shortcoming, looking slightly dejected. Rosweiss, still feeling immensely proud, reassured her daughter in a soft and gentle tone, saying there was no need to apologize because her performance was already incredibly impressive. Muon, agreeing with her mother, wholeheartedly held Noah's hand and expressed her support. As he looked at his two daughters, a smile of mixed emotions crossed his face. He thought about how Noah wasn't very good at expressing her feelings, while Moana expressed hers perhaps too openly. As their father, he felt it was his role to balance things out. After reviewing the all-round physical fitness test paper, Leon commented on the results. He noted that activities like running, bench pressing, and pull-ups were all basic physical training. Then showing the paper to Noah, Leon pointed out that she had won 9 out of 10 actual combat matches, giving her the highest winning rate in the class. This, he explained, demonstrated her superior strategy and fighting skills. Hearing her father's words, Noah nodded in understanding. She then mentioned that her mother had told her that father had been the top student in every subject when he was in school. Leon then explained that when he first entered school, he wasn't at the top of the class. However, he gradually rose to first place through sheer hard work and perseverance. With a reassuring smile, Leon told Noah that she still had plenty of time and shouldn't let one mistake get her down. He believed she could do better. Determined, Noah clenched her tiny fists and nodded, understanding his words. Muan, full of enthusiasm and curiosity, asked her parents who would win if Dad fought Mom, given how powerful Dad is. In response, Leon and Roswi placed their hands on their chests, each confident in their own answer. Leon with certainty said it would be him, while Roswi declared it would be her.